Friends, if you're looking for real old school laughs, you're in for a treat because we've got them right here. Flip City Magazine. Remember Mad Magazine? Then it went woke? Well, don't worry. Flip City has no chance of going woke. That's right. 4 times a year, you'll get an actual printed magazine full of jokes, stories, comics, and more, all about today's pop culture, entertainment, and woke politics. Flip City takes terrible entertainment trends we love to hate with hilarious parodies of Lord of the Rings, Stranger Things, The Walking Dead, Star Trek, Hunters, and more. Trust me when I say there is nothing else like Flip City on the market. So subscribe today. It will be delivered in print, or you can even get it digitally if you're one of those wacky Zoomers. Either way, follow our link and sign up today, and if you put in midnight, you get an extra 10% off. Check out Flip City Magazine today. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Midnight's Edge in the Morning. I am Tom Connors. We have the boss man, Andre, with us as always. How you doing?
We do. Greetings. I'm doing excellent. Getting over this cold, slowly but surely.
Indeed. We also have with us our fellow Canadian, Paul. How are you doing?
Don't call me Shirley.
Well, I will call you Paul. Just don't call me Al. But good morning, Paul. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm very good. I'm happy. Videos are out, posted, doing whatever it is that they do. Now I have to make more, and I am working on the TV guide video because I am getting lots of people bugging me about it.
Tom, see what you have done.
Important people, not you.
Well, he led the charge, though. I'm sure he inspired some of them.
I know. I love Tom.
And, of course, we have coming back. It's been too long. Razorfist. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic. Trying to get my camera to work here, but I'll figure it out as we're going. I'll figure it out. We'll do it live.
How are we supposed to pronounce razor with the umlaut over the O?
Razörfist, I don't know. Whatever. It's something vaguely Germanic. I don't know. It's Motorhead. Come on.
Well, it's going to. I can answer that actually.
Yeah.
Oh.
Razörfist would be the way to do it.
Yeah, something.
I like that.
Yeah.
We once made a fake name where we only put the accents over consonants.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Spinal Tap. It's the old Spinal Tap move.
But these go to 11.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's a fine line between clever and stupid, yes. But good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning. We've got some interesting topics today. I'm excited to have Razorfist here, and Paul's okay too.
Yeah. I'm okay. No, I don't need anything more than that.
And speaking of, Hyperguyver 2 says, Razor, have you read Pat Zircher's Solomon Kane?
We were just talking about this beforehand.
This is ironic.
We had a fun conversation behind the scenes here. You guys were waiting for us to go live.
I hate Patrick Zircher like Al Qaeda. So I'm not a big fan of him taking over Solomon Kane. He has neither the sensibility. He does have the talent. He's a very talented artist. Really good at tracing light boxed images, but no, great. He's a passable artist, but I am not a fan of him as a writer, and I'm really not a fan of him as a human being. So he's kind of the only thing about that Conan comic that I don't like. I love the Conan stuff. It's incredible. The new artist, what's the guy's name? Torres?
Yes. And you caught me off guard here. Give me 1 second.
Yes.
Rob de la Torre.
Yeah.
Rob de la Torre.
Amazing artist, second coming of John Buscema. I'm entranced by his work, but Zircher, they could have picked a much better guy to do Solomon Kane.
Yeah.
But
I would also
mostly to
say that,
write it. Mostly to
I
write.
think that Jim Sub has done a terrific job with writing the Conan stories as well,
Oh,
because
yeah.
he did the same level of research as did Roy Thomas back in the
Yeah.
day, and you can totally tell from the stories.
And
So,
Roy Thomas used to be, I mean, word for, if you used to read those old Conan or the Elric stuff that he did, or what, it was word for word sometimes from the original books. And so I did a whole video on Elric of Melniboné, which Roy Thomas also did. And he literally, if you read through those old first comics, epic comics, whatever, Elric stuff, you literally can like substitute them for the books in some cases.
yeah,
They're
you can
so,
absolutely.
yeah, they're so bang on.
I mean, if you've read that, if you've read the epic adaptation of those books, you have practically read the books, and with the
Absolutely.
artwork, it's honestly better than if you read them yourself. So that's actually my go-to for reading those books rather than reading them, is read the original comic book adaptation. It's the definitive one. There's been more comic book adaptations. They're all good, all with their various strengths and weaknesses. But that first one is a league of its own, and that's the magic of Roy Thomas right there.
Yeah.
And Jim Sub has been able to replicate that, which I thought was pretty amazing and we wouldn't see. But here we are. It's in the new Conan comics.
What would you say overall on the Conan front in comic books is the best one that was like a lengthy, meaty run that holds up the best over time? Is it like Dark Horse? Is it Savage Sword, the old Marvel stuff? What like long term has held up the best, would you say?
I would say there's one thing that prevents Dark Horse, and that is the fact that they lost their way midway there. Yeah. If they had been able to keep up the same level of quality for the duration of the Dark Horse run as they did in the first few years, the first few storylines, then I think that would have been the definitive. But they didn't even complete the storyline of the Vazir, who was really taught them on, and the prince. Yeah. They set it up, but they never concluded it. I mean, that there alone is a point where Razor has problems, but I'm going to keep on answering anyway. That's a problem right there for the Dark Horse run, and that makes it tremendously inconsistent. Of course, you have inconsistencies throughout all of the runs, but I would say that the one that holds up the best is the first 10 years of Savage Sword of Conan and Conan the Barbarian, the ones that were written by Roy Thomas almost exclusively. I think that is what holds up the absolute best. And then hopefully Razorfist will be back to chime in on that. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that. And while we wait for Razorfist to be back, let's do a few more of these super chats. Oh, here he's back again.
Okay, sorry. I died there because I was trying to get my camera to come on, and whatever it did, it kicked me out of the freaking call.
Well, it worked in the process, but anyway,
it did.
My answer was the first 10 years of Savage Sword, and
Nice.
Actually the first 6 years of Savage Sword, because that started in 1974, and Roy Thomas left the title in 1980. So that means you have 10 years of Conan the Barbarian, the main title, and 6 years of Savage Sword, which is the definitive run. And then you had a really great resurgence the moment that you got Chuck Dixon on the title. Wasn't Roy Thomas, but it was freaking awesome Conan stories anyway. And beyond that, it was just like an odd good one here or there. But then it was more bad than good outside of Thomas and Dixon. You had the occasional banger, but that was the rule rather than the exception. Dark Horse lost their way, and Marvel 2.0 didn't get long enough that you could really say anything.
Yeah, and they had some missteps even in that short period of time. Some of the crossover stuff and whatever. The Dark Horse stuff I thought was really strong to start with. And
exactly, to start with.
It was really strong sometimes in like little one-offs. They had little mini-series and stuff that were pretty good here and there.
Some of those were the best.
Yeah, and it was kind of hard to gauge it because sometimes it was good. It was, you know what kind of reminds me of is when Dynamite did Red Sonja, for the longest time. It's like
they're still doing it.
Yeah, well, I'm talking like 2005, 6, 7, like when it first kind of started. It was pretty good, and then it would be really crap for a little while, and it was just really variable. Kind of.
Yeah,
I was raising my daughter during that period, so all I can comment on is Barney.
He wasn't there. There were many dinosaurs, but you know why Red Sonja was and still is so inconsistent today? Crap editorial team. And I know this from one of the prolific writers who I will not identify, but it is a name that you would all know if I said it, so I'm not going to. And according to this writer,
Ernest Hemingway,
they don't even know the order of the stories or something, because they're basically just leaping on the job. So it's completely inconsistent. The only thing that matters is each storyline, and the canon for each storyline is whatever the writer of that storyline decides they choose to have as canon before. That's basically how it's in Red Sonja to this day. So it depends entirely on the writer if it's good or it's bad and what it's consistent with, because it's such a shit editorial team over there.
And some of that is probably because of the character too, because she's not a Robert E. Howard character. She's sort of a derivative, right? So she's a
Roy Thomas character.
Yeah, you can't have that thing where let's go back to the source material. There is no source material. There's the original kind of comic run. And so it's too open for interpretation. And we've seen what happens when modern when old school 60s, 50s, 40s comic book characters get reinterpreted by a modern mind, right? Over at Marvel or DC, every single time. So
go female Schiefer.
I mean, how do you mess up chick with a sword in a chainmail bikini? How do you?
Oh, they found a way. Actually, they found 10 ways.
Does that work?
Well, that's always possible.
Well.
You're embarrassed by it. That's the key. We were talking about it the other day. Not only, is Marvel embarrassed with their male character, or Disney Marvel is embarrassed about their male character. Disney can't even do their own princesses anymore. They've got to be all women who don't need no men. I mean, the girls out there aren't interested in Disney's new version of flat-chested princesses.
Yeah. Turns out generations of girls who were buying Barbies all kind of had uniform taste for decades and decades. Odd.
Indeed. Let's keep moving on these super chats here. We've got Packing Protons, who sends in 5 and says, the Outlaws actress should suffer making her ugly. Sue for making her ugly. I'd be very happy if she showed up on a blind date. What they created on screen, I'd run from. So what's this all about, Andre?
To illustrate that, Tom, check the private chat, because there's a link to an X from Grumps, our good friend who was here only last Wednesday. And that's exactly what he commented on in that tweet, because we now know a little bit more about this new Star Wars game. And look at this image right here. This is what Packing Protons is referring to. Look at that beautiful woman in the picture on the left.
Right.
And then look at that inbred, drugged up, trans monstrosity in the picture to the right.
When you order it versus when it shows up from Wish, right?
It looks like the kid from Bad News Bears who had the crackhead parents.
It also looks like the bully in the remake of it. Looks like that too.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, and look at the tattoo over whatever boob they've got.
That's a
it has to be there.
At least we know that they followed the Xbox directives and checked that the women weren't overtly sexified by actually looking like women.
Well, also give her Javier Bardem's haircut from.
Yeah, no kidding.
What was the movie about the old men in oil?
No Country for Old Men.
Yeah,
looks like a backup singer in like a mid-70s power pop group or something. Like, what even is this?
Yeah,
like she's gonna rage some Joan Jett at me or something.
No, even worse. What was that Scottish band in the plaid pants?
Oh, Slade.
Slade, yes.
Oh yeah.
She looks like a Slade reject.
You're
She
not
looks like a
wrong.
groupie for Metallica in 1982.
Oh, a little bit. Yeah, kind of. She's got the early thrash
She's got
metal.
that trailer park look, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Stunt.
I mean, of course, I'm sure that that if you put the original girl on enough fentanyl, then maybe. But
This girl looks like she's selling fentanyl. What are you talking about?
yeah. So yeah, that's that picture right there. That is then from Star Wars Outlaws, a game that we are only now starting to learn more about, and the more we learn about it, the less I think people will be interested in it. And I say, hey, there's some amazing Star Wars games on the Super Nintendo. So maybe, just maybe, check out those instead of this thing.
What's the ETA of this game?
Hmm?
What's the ETA of this game?
Razorfist, you've taken a little bit of a deep dive into this, haven't you?
No, I haven't made a video on this. I don't even know what you're talking about. A lot of other people have talked about it. However,
I thought you did.
I have not talked about it yet, so I don't know. But I have seen it all over.
It's due in August. The planned release date is August 30th.
Most of what I've seen about it, most of the positive buzz that I've heard about it has been kind of similar to when that crappy Marvel 1942 whatever thing was released, like late last month or whatever. You know, it's like, oh my god, but look at the graphics. It's like, neat. Real life has nice graphics too, and it sucks also. Like, what are we even talking about here?
Also, this is out on the PlayStation 5, okay?
Right?
These graphics, they're not amazing. These graphics fucking suck.
Oh my god.
This is PlayStation 3. This is PlayStation 3 level.
That's what I've been griping about ever since I got a PS5.
Yeah, I'm glad. Like for the longest of time, I actually wanted a PlayStation 5 and I couldn't get one because there were like these mythical things that some people had, but because
I'm grateful because I got it gifted to me, but like I have not been that impressed with any of the games thus far. I don't feel like they're maximizing or using any of the oomph that's supposed to be behind this machine, and none of these games look. And that's what was kind of disappointing about PS4. Even then, I'm like playing a PS4 game going, this doesn't feel like much more than I would have gotten out of a PS3 game.
Yeah, it has no... I mean, obviously the no games thing is a meme, but even the games it has just aren't that interesting. You're better off not even buying either console and just getting Game Pass. Because at least that has games.
Or Steam or whatever, yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like, what are we even doing?
Yeah, you know what I'm really happy with? My jailbroken Sega Mega Drive mini console. That's amazing. That was a far better purchase than the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox One or anything like that.
I still got one sitting here for you, Andre,
dude,
actually.
Yeah, I know. I got one here as well. So it's good to
the original Xbox, if you jailbroke that thing, was just the greatest thing ever. The original Xbox. You
Yes,
could run anything on that. It was
the jailbroken PlayStation 3. I mean, that was very hard to let go. That was my home media center. That was my movie player. That was my streamer. It was my music box. It was
PS3
everything.
rocked, yeah.
Yeah, it could even play games. That was a nice bonus feature for the media center that the PlayStation 3 was. That's what it was to me. It was a media center.
But it was still one of the best gameplay. Like I said, PS4 didn't really add anything to the table. It took shit away.
Yeah, that's why I never got it. I sat it out because I couldn't use it as a media center.
It's a snappier interface on the PS4.
Pretty much. And it's HD, you know, the 4K or whatever. But other than that.
Anyhow. And what is the PlayStation 5 if not the PlayStation 4.5?
It is. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like we haven't really gotten anywhere since PS3. And this is what I was griping about RoboCop. I'm like, yeah, it's fun, but this doesn't feel like a game it doesn't feel like anything more advanced than what I would have played on the PS3. Now, I get it. That's a game that's made by not a AAA game, but
you can't play Zero Dawn on the PS3. There's some games on the 4.
Yeah, Ghost of
They
Tsushima,
have
which
a
or
network for
something
it.
like that. Which actually, Ghost of Tsushima is coming to Steam now, which is pretty cool. But yeah, there's definitely.
That's fair, but still,
probably the big one for PS4 that you still can't play is Bloodborne. That's the one everyone's wanted to play for the longest time. It's still not out.
Yeah, God of War is on 4. I mean, there's some there. They have some good titles.
Yeah, not as many as good as the PlayStation 3 though.
No, Uncharted. I mean, I still play Uncharted on the 3.
Yeah, see, there you go.
And oh yes, and you know what? I still regularly dive into Mass Effect multiplayer online.
Speaking of Uncharted, which is basically just Dude Raider, did you see the Tomb Raider kerfuffle going on with they're now launching a tabletop RPG of Tomb Raider, right? That's not the big story, but they've got like every checkbox on the DEI checklist, right? They've got the girl who's a double amputee. They've got the whatever.
Oh.
And that's not the worst part. They say Lara has reconsidered her tomb raiding ways, her colonialist ways, and has exchanged raiding tombs for seeking justice.
Oh, fantastic.
Social justice.
And here's the thing. This is coming out ahead of the big Tomb Raider reboot. What are we on, like reboot number 50 now? But anyway, like the new Tomb Raider reboot where they're supposedly going to go back to a more original style Lara Croft doesn't look like it. She looks like a lady golfer, folks. And we're supposedly going to move on to that kind of version of the character. So this is kind of like an advanced preview of the direction they're going. The big rumor has been that Lara is now a shall we say WNBA season ticket holder.
Gotcha. She's a lady in extremely ugly shoes.
In Canada, we use the term traveling companion.
Yes, I've heard that one, Paul. Yes. Or my friend, my special friend.
Yes, my roommate.
Your aunt's special friend.
Yes, my aunt.
We got Tomac sending in 50 smackaroos. Holy crap, holy. Tomac, thank you for that.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, how much do you...
sorry.
Go ahead, Paul.
No, go ahead.
I was going to just read the super chat here. Yeah. So how much do you guys value art style over graphics? Good art style is why I shill for the Vanillaware games. Well, that's a good question. Honestly, I go for more realism unless it's like a specified IP. Like, to me, what was one of the coolest things of the PS3, one of the earlier games, was The Simpsons and how that game felt like a cartoon, or the South Park games, stuff like that. That's fine if it feels like that, but like otherwise I want more.
The South Park games, Stick of Truth and whatnot, they nailed that aesthetic.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that I want for those things, but like real world is what I want otherwise, right? For like GTA and so on. So
like,
but what about you guys?
Art style, like do you refer to like those RPG games from that company, which have like these really distinct visual look? As a general thing, I gravitate towards visual look, but that comes that's secondary to gameplay. It can be as visually pleasing as it wants. If the gameplay isn't there, or if I'm stuck in a corner and I can't get out, which is what happens whenever there's a 3D game, then it's not going to help. Then I'll prefer pixel art that's playable than getting lost in a maze, no matter how pretty.
You like Conan? Did you ever play Exiles? I played that a little bit.
I actually no, I haven't.
It's not bad. It's really not bad for one of those crafting open world survival typey games. It's really not bad.
I played Conan on the PlayStation 2 and on the PlayStation 3. I have those games. I've played those.
Yeah, nice.
But I suck at them because they're both 3D.
Right.
Same as the He-Man game on the PlayStation 2. Looks amazing. It's the art style of the 2002 series. But it doesn't help because it's still a 3D game and I suck so badly at it. Same with Splatterhouse. Looks fantastic and stuff, but I mean, I can barely get through the first level. just because I suck so bad at 3D gaming.
All right.
I go for the style over realism. I'm tired of realism. I think it's the worst thing that's happened to computer games.
I tend to agree with that.
It's, I mean, it's definitely elevated budgets and made people, as they focus more and more on the photorealism, it just costs more and more. The levels get smaller, the ambition gets reduced. I definitely think there's an element to that. Some games can pull it off. If you're making one of those more like interactive movie-ish games, which I do think there is a place for those kind of games, like the Heavy Rains and the Detroit Become Humans or whatever, a place like the Bargain Bin. But no, there is a place for it in the industry. Seriously. If you're making something like that, being a little bit more photorealistic maybe makes a little bit more sense. But like the best game I played last year was the remake of System Shock 1. And they went this full kind of pixelated, almost like voxel style. It was brilliant how they did it. It's in 3D. It's up to a proper modern standard, but instead of having hyper detailed textures and stuff, they sort of evoked the feeling of the original 1994 PC game with kind of deliberately pixelated sort of textures and stuff. So it has this cool sort of cyberpunky vibe to it. I really liked that.
That's an awesome art style. And I just remembered my favorite game of the last 3 generations, like back to PlayStation 3, is actually the Rayman games. Because I don't love hyper realism. I never did. Even when games started to become looking realistic with Metal Gear Solid and stuff like that, I was like, wow, not like, wow, cool, like, Jesus, this is horrible. I don't want that. I don't want to play realistic looking games. I mean, I don't want it to be much more realistic than pixel art, basically. But those Rayman games were absolutely fantastic. That was an amazing art style because it just updated the pixel art of the original 32-bit game, which I believe was originally it wasn't for the PlayStation, it was for that other one. The failed one, not the 3DO, but the Jaguar. I think it was originally a Jaguar game. And they just took that art and they just updated it to that generation.
Man, you remember
amazing.
You remember the controller on the Jaguar? It's like
the one with way too many buttons. That
it was like a graphic calculator. You were like, "What is this thing?"
Yeah, I mean that was a blast from the past. That was like going way back into the past of the. Was it Amiga? No, it wasn't Amiga. It was the other one. I should look this up in advance. But basically, like in the history of that company, they had like this tradition for using like these paper overlays over their controls, and unbelievably, they brought that back for the Jaguar.
Atari, of course.
Atari. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I like the fact that Nintendo games still look like games.
Yeah. Which is why they're outselling both companies combined.
And,
rightfully so.
One of my favorite games is still Zelda 64.
Oh,
the Ocarina of Time.
I was playing that the other day. The last new game I got was Mario versus Donkey Kong, which is, a brand new game. And it is in a completely retro Mario versus Donkey Kong style, right?
Yeah.
It is a puzzle game. It's 2D. It's a platform, 2.5D, whatever you want to call it. But dude, it does the business. I play it for hours. I never get tired of it.
Yeah, my son is the one who likes the big shooter games. That I used to argue with him when he was a young teenager that Battlefront, all these things were all the same, and he would just be yelling at me. No, they're not, Dad. Call of Duty's not the same as Battlefront. Fuck off. You're not the same. No, you're just killing people.
Right.
Online. That's like what's.
But thank you for the 50, Tomac.
Yeah, one is first person shooting, and the other is shooting in first person.
Yeah. But so I tend, but I don't mind stylized games like what's its name? New Vegas. Fallout. Fallout had this coolness to it and the sense of humor. BioShock.
Yeah.
Those are all my favorite kinds of games. That's really where I am. But again, I think there's a clear division between like a Nintendo style game, platform games, or and PC games, and the fact that PC games went into the platforms, I think it's killed them. I don't think it's useful to make
and
it's stuff so realistic.
It's telling that PC games are where the industry is probably most vibrant right now. Right?
Yeah, look at Steam.
You double in single A games that are outselling some AAA releases on the platform, and it's like, look what's happened with the Helldivers 2 and such of the world, and it's just crazy how some of these games are taking off. Some of them PC only, some just PC is the lead platform, but it's like all of the creativity has migrated over to PC.
Well, I would love to continue to play Spacecraft, except I canceled my BattleNet subscription.
Oh, StarCraft, yeah.
StarCraft, like they can go F themselves.
Right. You don't like a spot of sexual harassment with your space RTS game? No.
I just love StarCraft. That's again.
But I think that's a great observation, and I think we'll be seeing much more of it, because this new Star Wars Outlaws game, the reception that I see is not great. This is a AAA game, and it's going to be yet another failed AAA game. And we have Grumps come here and argue that the best way to change what's going on in gaming right now is for the audience collectively to just, unless it's a really, really rare special thing that is of sound models and everything, then just skip everything that is AAA games for the next few years, for the next 5 years. Because they're all DEI infused. Just skip them and support smaller single and double A productions and even indie productions which have no DEI nonsense and are just great games.
I have an idea on how Outlaws could be successful. Add loot boxes.
There you are.
Yeah, there we go. Taking the loot boxes back again.
Please.
But let's continue with these super chats before we move on with the main topics.
Oh, what a trial.
The DCV Titan says for $2 Canadian, good to see Racer survived the Clinton assassins.
You can't prove that.
Yeah, no. Let's move on before we're taken down here. One way or the other. Dr. Longdongler sent us a £1.99 super sticker. So everyone, please smash that like. Let everyone know that we are live right now. That'd be awesome.
Thank you, Mr. Dongler.
And Vengeful Dragon Garlic Bread Expert says for 14 South African runs, secret hideout unemployment party. So yeah, good times in the realm of South Park, South Park too, but especially Star Trek. And we'll see what happens. I look forward to learning more about what's going on behind the scenes there. So that should be fun. And then of course Actioncom, he joins the company, is asking Paul, when's the TV guide video?
Are you pulling a Frank Costanza? What are you gonna do? You're gonna go through a TV guide collection or something?
I have.
He already does.
I've already done. I've done 10 years worth, starting from 1970.
Wow.
Now I think I'm up to 1986.
You are Frank Costanza. What is this?
I am. I have gone through detailed. They're my lowest rated videos. That's why you don't know about.
Those are always the best ones, though.
But those
are always the best
I love
ones,
doing them.
man.
And I'm up to Thursday night. So in 1986, which include Alf and Designing Women. So yeah, that's going to be a good show.
Oh my God.
So yes, I'm George Costanza. Yes.
Yes.
And Mercenary X21 says for $5, Morning Racer, Clownfish TV just reported Society of Magical N-Word got pulled from theaters, and since it's Searchlight, it's a Disney film, want to fail.
Oh.
So yeah, this was reported several places actually. Kudos to Clownfish for staying on top of it. Our good friend Yellow Flash also did a video on this yesterday, I believe.
It's just amazing how they won't admit flops.
And I don't think they'll just pull it out and hope that everyone forgets about it.
Yeah. Apparently Disney are going to compromise. They're going to call it 3/5 of a flop, actually.
I'm sure it'll be on streaming next week.
Yeah.
Video on demand. I mean, this just happens to be a first movie in a while that's gotten pulled so early. This has happened to a few others in the past.
But what's interesting is this new generation of producers that seem to be unleashed from and unhinged from their studio masters. You've got what's her name, Lee, talking about Wish. Alan.
Oh, that woman who destroyed Disney Animation.
But the thing is, in print and in videos, they are still so proud of this failed effort, and they have no clue as to just how bad it is. And same with, if you read the Kurtzman article in Variety, he is just got such a woody over the work that he's done for Discovery and Strange New Worlds and Picard. Like, so utterly oblivious.
You know what the best part of that interview is?
They're all making, but they love it because it's infused with this nonsense.
It's incredible. And that syndrome in Star Trek might even go back to before the current wave. Do you remember the show, The Jamie Kennedy Experiment?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a hidden camera show for those who are not apprised. It's basically candid camera, but Jamie Kennedy, comedian, bad romantic comedy guy, he would he would basically engineer these elaborate behind the scenes pranks. A lot of times there would be like a industry component to it. Like it'd be behind the scenes of a TV show or something. There was an episode, and you can probably look this up, where Star Trek Enterprise was on the air, right? The last real Star Trek show. And it really, really brought into focus how far Star Trek had fallen to that point, because the prank was that Jamie Kennedy approached some of the people behind the scenes who were producers, and who's Ethan Phillips? By then he was a producer, kind of writer guy, and whatever. Some of the people were kind of involved behind the scenes, and they were going to pitch the idea of Star Trek High School. And terrible idea. It's an idea they would happily use today.
Academy.
But the whole yes. Anyway, so they pitched this horrible idea. And who's the guy in charge at that time? Brannon Braga. And anyway, the two main guys were running Star Trek at the time. They get him in on it. So basically, he's the one pitching this idea. And the idea is nobody wants to tell him the idea is bad because he's the boss. So he's pitching this horrific idea. Oh, we're going to have the ensign and the whatever. They're going to be in a romance. It's going to be teenage comedy. It's going to be, oh yeah, we'll have adolescent hijinks. And then we'll have a fully nude shower scene. And then just horrible idea after horrible idea. And the room full of Star Trek writers are like, yeah, let's do this. Let's do it now, right? It is a mortal certainty that is happening right now.
Wow.
Right now. No question.
Starship Troopers.
Yes.
Yeah, indeed. And,
that's hilarious.
I remember something even worse. There was a video interview that Kurtzman did when he first started, where he had the audacity to say that Star Trek was in a position where, I was in a place and the Star Trek brand was in a place, so I needed Star Trek, and Star Trek needed me.
Wow.
It didn't. Tom, you were saying something.
Well, I was just saying that the best part of that whole interview was when they were asking Kurtzman about the Picard spinoff, New Legacy or whatever the hell it's supposed to be called. Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah, that's beyond my control, and all that kind of bullshit. It's like dumb shit. That is your job to greenlight shows. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Now, what he should have been saying there is, no, I've greenlit my limit, and I'm not going to greenlight this show no matter what, because it makes me look bad. That's what he really meant by that, because that's what I keep hearing is that everybody wants it, except for Alex Kurtzman.
It's crazy. That's crazy. Somebody in the chat, I've never heard this, but apparently Kurtzman refused help from Robert Hewitt Wolf, who was one of the main writers on Deep Space Nine, like one of the main guys, which is widely regarded now as the best Star Trek show. That does not surprise me at all. That doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
Yeah, no, he's refused anyone. with any kind of knowledge about or affection for any of the original series. I mean, if you have that, you're disqualified. You only want activists that hate Star Trek who don't know it, so he can do whatever the hell he wants with it.
Nicholas Meyer was a consultant at the beginning of Discovery and was chased off the set.
Yeah, did you see our interview with him? Tom had an interview with Meyer. It's here on this channel.
I saw him do a trade show presentation on it.
Wow. It reminds me of Ridley Scott showing up to the set of Blade Runner 2049 and getting thrown out.
Hey, you hack, get out of here.
His brother had just committed suicide too. That's sensitive.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Tom? But,
his brother Tom, the other director?
Tony Scott.
Tony Scott.
Tony Scott, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wrong kid died.
Oh, that's cruel.
Indeed.
But it's true.
But let's move on with these super chats. We drifted a little bit from this one. We got this one already. So the next one is from Mercenary X21, who says, and Salty Cracker has a video on CIA setting up Jones. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And the Waltman 4 says, forgot to ask Chato when they was more of a thing, but what were your thoughts on the Quiet on Set documentary series on HBO Max?
Never saw it. Don't have HBO or Max. In fact, I can't even watch Star Trek right now because it was on Crave up here in Canada, and now they've moved them all off of Crave, I guess, because so many people are going to be signing up for Paramount Plus just to watch it.
Oh yeah.
And, so I have no access. I can only
you know what it is though, right?
What?
It's the Dan Schneider, the guy behind all those creepy Nickelodeon girl shows.
Oh, okay.
The footsie videos, yeah.
That guy apparently, it's kind of a behind the scenes. He's a douchebag thing.
Way beyond that. The kind of douchebag beginning with a P. We actually had a submitted script about that guy several years ago, way back in the beginning of the channel's history. It burns me to this day, but couldn't run it because it would have been too hot and it would have gotten the channel shut down way back then.
Oh yeah, this guy's been surrounded by rumors for years.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The biggest one being that he's the father of Jamie Lynn Spears' kid when she was 15 or whatever. Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, I just have to say that failure in this industry is what kept me from becoming a bigger douchebag.
Right. You would be this. Yeah, you would be this more of a douchebag otherwise.
If you were more of a creep, maybe you'd have made it farther.
Damn.
Next time you're gonna have to say more prayers to Moloch, I'm afraid.
Yes.
Speaking of creeps, let's keep moving on here because we've got a bunch of super chats to get through, but we got people claiming that Sylvester Stallone is a bit of a creep.
Ooh, you do a good Sylvester Stallone.
I do. Because look at all these extras on the set. Look at this fucking guy. He's fatter than hell. Go work out. You, get rid of that Kane. Because, I would say something like that.
But can you half paralyze your face and wear a bad rug while you say that?
Well, half my face is already paralyzed. No. So the big news that broke over the last couple days is, oh my God, nobody wants to work for the Tulsa King because it is a toxic environment. Isn't that right, Andre?
It is indeed. We did a video on this yesterday. Check it out if you haven't seen it already. And the industry trades were very quick to pick up and signal boost these allegations of a toxic set. That's a word that has been going around. A toxic set. Because the casting director basically made public accusations that Stallone himself and the director of an episode weren't happy with the cast that she had provided, or with the cast, rather, the background extras or background artists, as she referred to them as. But these background extras, then, according to the director and Stallone, allegedly were too old, too fat, too decrepit, too crippled, and what have you. And this was missing from the first reportings of the story. In the first reportings that were in Deadline Hollywood, it was basically just presented as that Stallone was like saying, "What's with all these fat, ugly dudes? Get me some hot women to be in them, have around me instead." But apparently, and this is something that came from the Hollywood Reporter, the real issue here is that this casting lady had been given the instruction that for this scene, we need young, attractive people, preferably of the female persuasion. And what she supplied them...
He never even said that. He just said young and hip, to be honest with you.
Young and hip. Okay, fine. Young and hip. And she supplied young and hip people in their
young and hip replacement.
I was just gonna say that, Razorfist. More like hip replacement. Yeah.
Oh, Razor, you fisted that one. That was
because the one guy was walking around with a cane, and supposedly, here's the other thing that's funny about this: the claims that he said this on the set are coming like second and third hand. Okay. Nobody has, except for one person, has claimed to have actually heard this stuff firsthand.
Yeah.
And in the director's retelling of this whole thing, Sly isn't even mentioned anywhere. And it sounds more like the director took this Rose Lock aside because she showed up supposedly because there was a problem on the set. Well, the problem was they sent the wrong actors. That's what happened. So they did the job, but then after the shoot, he went to her and said, "Look, from now on, I'm going to need headshots of who you're sending me." And she
calm down, Alec Baldwin, not those kind of headshots.
Exactly. Yeah, not those kind of headshots. But like, so the director's like, "From now on, we're going to need headshots from your company," because clearly they couldn't do their job. So for those who don't, just kind of real quick, these casting agencies are there so to save you time of having to go and cast a large group of people for background scenes, right? So like if you need a bunch of bikers for a biker bar.
It's not even a question of saving time. It's the only way to do it.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, like, so if you need a bunch of bikers for a biker bar, you say, well, today we need a bunch of bikers. So then a bunch of bikers show up, like guys that look like bikers. If you need a bunch of guys who are in a prison, then they'll send you a bunch of rough looking dudes. You know, that's their job, right? So basically what this chick is doing, so if they're asking for like biker looking dudes, they're sending him fat, old, DEI hires instead of what they're actually supposed to be sending him. Yeah. So basically when the director took this lady aside and said this, she got all upset. So it sounds like to me, all these claims and accusations are stemming from this disagreement with this chick about the actor she was sending over. And she was all upset about being ordered from now on to have to send headshots before anybody's hired. So she quit. Okay. And then she went to the internet and rage quit all over the place. Right, Andre?
Yeah, pretty much. First, she rage quit in closed Facebook groups for all of the casting agents in the regions, and then her friend shared who is an actor, then shared images from these private groups to make sure that they got the appropriate public attention. Shared them in public on X, and maybe dropped some emails to TMC and stuff like that. And for maximum signal boosting, even called out Stallone directly on X, just to ensure that it got the proper attention. While look, the casting agent in question has plausible deniability because she didn't make this public, her friend did. She only made it public in the closed Facebook groups, where this has been discussed for some time, how horrible and toxic that set is, because they set up this conversation. And in reality, it sounds like this is quite the toxic casting lady. That's a real issue here.
Yeah, it sounds like she got confronted, and now she's going to make it everybody's problem.
And here's the funny thing, because according to this article right here, the director of the episode, the one who took this casting lady aside and said, "Look, from now on, I'm going to need headshots. he also pointed out that's what everyone does. You don't just bring extras on set. You do send headshots of the extras first and get their approval. This is perfectly standard. I mean, I have actually been an extra myself, and I know that the director had to approve my headshot, and it was really
how was being an extra on Showgirls, by the way?
Ultra Casino was very jealous. That's all I know.
It depends on the size of the
Absolutely.
production.
So wicked pair of cans, by the way, Andre.
Yeah.
So the line producer would be in charge of all the people that the director and the second AD, because the director cannot talk to non-speaking talent. That will cost more.
Because the moment you do, then you are no longer an extra. You're now an actual. I mean, people
even
have
if you don't say anything, you can't. The director
payday that way.
So generally speaking, in a big production, the director will not see anybody in the background. It'll be all the line producers' work. But they will take the pictures of people. Generally speaking, though, you go to a agency that specializes in background people, and you trust them to do it. There's just so many.
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
So many other things to worry about when you're on the set, and that is like just keeping the cocaine dust off from under your nose.
Well, and that's what I was saying, Paul. Is like it's not. You're right. It's not even so much about saving time. It's just that that's what their job is. Like I said, you ask for a specific group of type of actors or look or whatever, and that's what they're supposed to provide. And it doesn't sound like that's what they were doing.
Yeah, one time we were doing a musical on a rich guy, and we asked for a whole shit ton of male models and female models, and they all arrived in bathing suit and bikinis. It was a terrible evening. I'm telling you, it was horrible.
It made you feel very self-conscious. I'm sure.
Really, really terrible. But Stallone is a professional. He has produced stuff. I could very easily see him turning around and going, "Hey, like who sent me this meat? Like, really?" I mean, I would absolutely believe he would make a comment like that, and rightfully so. I mean, he knows his shit.
I don't think he did, though. But even if he did, go ahead, Andre. Sorry.
No, sorry, you carry on, Tom. Yeah, because you were going to make.
No, I was just saying, even if he did, I mean, you're 100% right, Paul. And I don't think he did just because of the way the story's going down, because everybody else is running with one side of the story. This Hollywood Reporter version of it and the TMZ reporter of it are the only ones that are running with the other side of the story. And I think this goes deeper.
Yeah.
See, here's the thing.
He's always been high on certain elements of the Hollywood press's shit list. Like he always has. He doesn't vote the right way. He has had conflicts with certain people that they like and things like. He's also been he didn't become successful the right way. Right. He didn't kiss the right hindquarters. And he's always been that way. Right. Remember that big story about him getting busted with steroids or whatever. And they're always pretty eager to throw him under the bus. But he's unkillable. He's got 9 lives.
I have more respect for him now than ever before.
That's just it. He's not a James Woods. He's not Dean Kane. He's not somebody who's, you can just kind of ignore or ostracize. He's Sylvester fucking Stallone.
Oh yeah, you're not canceling or unpersoning him.
No, exactly.
They'd love to, though. They'd love to.
They would love to, but see, I don't even buy him. I mean, I could see him saying like, "What is with this fat ugly fucker?" I can see him saying something like that, but I don't see him saying, "I need to be surrounded by a bunch of young, attractive women." This whole claim, it sounds like something that was completely fabricated by this bitch.
But you know what? If this is the worst thing he's ever said in his life, I'm there for him. I'm actually supporting him.
I don't care if he did or not, like you said, Paul, but I honestly don't think he did. I don't think he was any part of this conversation. I just think that this Rose Locke knows that unless he is a part of the conversation, nobody is going to fucking listen to her. Well, and here's the thing that happened. She was looking at, I bet you this was a "you can't fire me, I quit" situation.
Yeah.
And
or here's another thing. Karens are always paranoid. What do you want to bet she just assumes it came from Sylvester Stallone because he's the big shot and she resents him? You can easily see that too.
Well, and that's just it. As you guys were just alluding to, he's never flat out said he's Republican. He's hinted that he generally leans more Republican.
Yeah.
but that's enough for them, right?
Oh,
Doesn't matter, any other way. But here's another thing that I think there's a few things here that Andre and I pointed out in that video last night that I think are very important. One, he's jumping from California, right? He has publicly stated this in so many ways that basically he's done with LA and this bullshit.
Yeah.
So that's thing number one, right? Like, so he's already been shitting all over them. He's obviously not woke.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't
Well,
think
no,
he's even...
years ago, it did come out that I think he endorsed Ronald Reagan. He was one of those guys in like the 80s or 90s or something.
Shocking.
Yeah, that kind of, he like the Arnold Schwarzenegger Republican, that kind of
Well,
thing.
there's like this interview where he's like, I didn't even know I was a Republican until Rambo.
Right.
And then he's like, and then I got, Ronnie Reagan
Well,
over here.
these people are saying these things and writing these things because it seems that Hollywood has lost its creative mojo and they're competing for virtue signaling points.
Yeah.
Who can be the best? The volume of kids, of actors and actresses that are coming out non-binary trans is so hilariously impossible mathematically. It's as if they're doing it just to compete with each other.
Well, it's actually like part of the media, Paul.
2 trans kids, and J-Lo has now got 1 non-binary.
Ben Affleck's kid is now trans. No, it's actually part of the media, and we're working on.
Totally, man. I mean,
Hollywood than anything else.
Oh yeah, you remember in old school Hollywood where they would literally pair a couple up that weren't actually dating, but they were both big marquee stars during the day. We're talking during the days of the studio system.
Sure.
And, this famous starlet, whoever it is, June Vincent or whatever is dating this guy. Who's, but yeah, right. A bankable person. And they would like put them together. And we now know decades later, they were never even in the same room together, except
like Rock Hudson and whoever he was.
They were gay.
Right.
They'd be gay. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I brought up Rock Hudson. Exactly.
It's the modern version of that. That's what it is. They know it'll grab a headline.
Well, no, and Paul's got a point because we're actually working on something in the background that jumps off of a video we did a couple of weeks ago about kids not wanting remakes, reboots, and sequels. There's another thing is they're sick of sex in movies, and the bigger thing is they're confused. They don't understand how to actually make friends, and the lines between friends and relationships is so blurred now because of the media that they don't understand exactly how to make true friendships, right? Like I even saw an interview the other day that went right into this thing where this girl was talking about like it was no big deal to give one of her friends a blowjob just to help them out. It's like, bitch, that's more than a friend then. Right?
Wait, what? It's not?
It's like, where were these kids when I was in high school, right? Like, no. But I think the other thing is with this, to shift gears back to Sly, is the show isn't woke. I don't know who here's seen it besides me.
I haven't.
I love the show. It is fucking hilarious. It's a great show. In fact, I'm going to play a clip real quick from the show for you guys, just to give you an idea.
I have way more respect for Stallone after I saw Demolition Man.
Oh God, yeah. But if you haven't seen the show yet, I suggest checking it out.
And then you lost it again when you watched Judge Dredd. Yes.
Right.
No, I liked it. I loved him in Judge Dredd.
I am the law. But anyway, here's a clip from the show, and this is another reason why I think this show is under attack.
What's going on with this country in general nowadays? Does that mean like your generation? Seriously, come on. And these pronouns. What the fuck is with the pronouns? He, she, him, they, the, boom, bang, ba, bang, cool. You know what my pronoun is? Guess. Time's up. It, as in it, can't take this shit anymore.
Nice.
And I think that's why they're going after this show right there.
Oh yeah.
No, they're very serious about their pronouns on Hollywood. It's not subsiding.
Well, just the show in general is not woke. And that is a quote unquote a toxic environment, boys and girls, because that's the big word that was thrown around here. No actual accusations aside from the few things that supposedly Sly said.
Odd, the set of Rust wasn't considered toxic with all the lead poisoning. That's strange.
And a white man killed a white woman on that set. So,
how fatal is lead again?
You were about to say something, Andre. It sounded like
that was not the toxic set, even though the star was able to shoot both the DP and the director in one go. That's quite impressive.
For one
But
sale
yeah, no,
there.
I tend to agree. I think that this is one big virtue signal from this casting director lady.
That's what I thought.
Who's
That's what I think.
trying to score some kind of brownie points or something like that by taking down someone seen as an outsider bordering on an enemy.
It doesn't have to be
because-
brownie points, Andre. It could just be that she doesn't want to. She wants to save face for her company. Imagine if, like I said, it was a "you can't fire me, I quit" situation, right?
That
And
could also very well be, because here's like the thing: Hollywood is in a state of contraction. I mean,
exactly.
There's hardly any new pilots being greenlit. Usually, this time it would be like 100 pilots or something would have been greenlit and be gearing up for production right now. Instead, you have like 5 or something like that. There's hardly any movies being filmed, hardly any TV series being filmed. There's cancellations happening left and right, and Hollywood did this entirely on their own by going woke, driving away the audience, by the idiot people in charge going headfirst into a streaming war, which we on the outside were saying way back in 2019 that this thing is insane. The only thing you're doing is you're killing off your own sources of second market revenue. You're killing them, and you're driving them, just heading over to pirates. That's basically what you're doing.
Are you just doing a plug from the video I published this morning?
No, I did the conversation that we published in 2018 with
Yeah,
Bill
but we don't care about that. That's old news.
No, that's old. Yeah,
Plugging my
that's
stuff.
wiping
Yeah.
up bullshit. I have to see this video of yours, but basically, what I'm saying,
You stole his video by traveling through time, Andre.
Exactly. Yeah, there we have it. I traveled back in time to the early days of Midnight.
I was
Sessions,
wondering
stole
why
the
you were
Blade
buying
Hunters invites.
plutonium from me and a bunch of Libyans. I don't know.
Oh yeah, well
In
now
a
you know. That was
Volkswagen
my
van.
secret. But anyway, the point is that this was so incredibly obvious how this was going to play out, and the studio heads, idiots all of them, they still went headfirst into a streaming wars that destroyed the industry. And then you had the various strikes, which couldn't have come at the worst possible time. And I really don't think that for instance, the writers were that well served by the Writers Guilds or anything like that. And who knows what's going to happen with IATSE if we have like a new strike coming for that here right now. I mean, that'd be just perfect to top it off. In this environment, yeah, Tom, you might be onto something. It might be far better with, look, I left because this was a toxic environment and I look after my people, than I was fired because I brought out all of these DEI hires instead of what the job description said. Because that's what she did.
Well, and they even sounded like they were going to give him another chance. And I don't know if it was so much "you can't fire me, I quit." So I think she did quit, but she needed to create a story, because why else? Because they don't want it to get around that they're sending the wrong fucking people, because they're not actually doing their job, right? Like that's what we started with the whole point. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, if Sly said this shit in front of people, yeah, is it tactful? Not exactly. But what is he saying? He's not really saying anything about the people themselves. He's saying that the people that the company sent were the wrong fucking people. That's what he's saying, regardless of how he said it, or the director said it, or whoever said it. And when confronted by it, the bitch flipped the fuck out, because it even says there that everything was. That's the other thing that nobody else in any of the other reports, they're not bringing anybody else's point of view into this, but the people that were on the Facebook group. If you read deeper into that THR article we had up here, they actually have 3 people who also worked on the set said that they didn't notice anything out of the ordinary. There was like, the typical quiet down so we can work type shit, but that was it.
Yeah.
So they didn't see anything. So that's what I'm saying. To me, it sounds like this bitch was taken aside by the director, was told this, they got into an argument over it, and then she went and blew it all up online after she quit and raged off.
I'm on her side.
Believe
I'm sure
all
she'll
women.
hire you.
Hashtag. Yes.
Yeah.
That's kind of my take on the whole thing, looking at it.
Right.
From
It
reading
makes
both
you
sides of the
long.
situation.
It makes you long for the days of Christian Bale having meltdowns over a lighting guy.
And that
Yes.
at least made for a killer remix.
Right.
I mean, it would be so much more fun if we actually had some behind the scenes footage of Stallone going like,
Right? You want me to trash your extras? You and me, we're done, professional.
Good for you. And how was it?
Yeah, we already had the Tom Cruise versus Christian Bale version remix. We could add Sly into the mix too.
Nice.
That'd be great.
It's great.
Fat and ugly.
But,
Look at this guy. Can't even walk.
and I do believe that's kind of like would be in Stallone's character. I mean, we know it in Schwarzenegger's because it actually made it.
That's what I
into
say.
one of
Yeah,
his
Schwarzenegger's
movies.
like that. I don't know about Sly though.
Remember, like in the movie Sabotage, when he like is screaming at one of his fellow policemen, he's like look at yourself. You 30% body fat, fatso, or something like that, and that's
Yeah, I don't
a
know.
character, but that's obviously something Schwarzenegger really would say.
Oh yeah, Schwarzenegger prefers his adulterous nannies to be fat and ugly.
I say, yeah, Schwarzenegger was never anything for you to go, look at your flab, look at your boobies. You got boobies in your man, you should get rid of them, you fat fuck. Yeah, he would say shit like that all the time. Sly, on the other hand, he's always been an actor. You know, even though people think of him as the Palooka, like, you got to remember, he wrote that script, right? Like, he's directed a dozen movies. This guy is an actor. Like, he loves to act. So, like, I don't see him being somebody who would demean other actors. I don't buy that story at all. I think it is complete bullshit. And especially when you add in the line, why ain't I surrounded by young, beautiful women? The dude has how many fucking daughters? He would never say
that one.
like
that one I don't believe. That is something I do believe is an embellishment that he would ask about. What's with this fat dude with the cane? I kind of believe that, but the rest, no. The ladies part, I don't buy it.
Well, and then another version of the story that Mr. H said that he had either read or heard about was that actually it got even more complicated, was that they were actually doing a flashback to a scene from the first season. So it sounded to me like they actually asked for specific extras to come back for the scene. And they didn't send those extras, is what he had said. So that, even if that's true, that's even another layer to this, or that could have been another incident that led, that this is an ongoing issue with this, agency or something possibly. Right. Now, again, take that as a grain of salt because I don't have anything to back that up. So yeah. But the show's great. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's very non-woke. I've compared it to GTA. It's like if we ever had a GTA show or movie, this is the closest you're going to get. Because Sly comes into this town and he just does whatever the fuck he wants. And it's hilarious.
I've started watching it. It reminds me of Lilyhammer, which was another fun show. Because for those that haven't seen it, Lilyhammer, it's a semi-spin-off of Sopranos with one character there, relocating to Lilyhammer, Norway for witness protection. Right. And the funny thing is that Stallone's character has been in jail for 25 years, and him coming out of jail into contemporary American society, if anything, he is suffering a greater culture shock than the Sopranos character moving to Norway.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and that's what's great about that scene I played for you guys, right? Because that's a lot of what he's dealing with is a lot of the modernisms and stuff, so much more than anything else. But and then the other bits that are funny is like him figuring out a phone and other stuff. Like there's a lot of funny stuff in the show. It's really lighthearted, but it also has, like you said, like the Sopranos, Breaking Bad kind of tone to it. Taylor Sheridan knew what he was doing with this. And it's not like Sly needs this. He's even said that. So like I don't even know why they're trying to cancel the show on him, other than he'll just go on and do something else if they succeed.
The problem is the new catechism is you're in it all the way or you're not. There's no more discussion between people with different perspectives trying to find some kind of compromise.
Oh yeah.
That's really what has changed.
Yeah, you have to say all the right shibboleths, right?
Everything.
Nothing else to be done. It's you're all the way in or you're all the way out. Totally.
Yeah,
which is how you find so many people who, politically might be or might have previously been described, center, left of center, even maybe straight up left, who just because they didn't read the script exactly how how they were supposed to, right? Politically, I mean.
Yeah.
They're cast out. They find themselves, look what happened to Roseanne Barr, right? Like she was never right wing lady, right? She never was.
She was crazy.
Well, she's always been crazy, but that's part of her comedy. So
yeah, and you do need to have, what was it that I just saw that there's this terrific article about NPR, a guy who'd worked there for 28 years.
Yep.
And he said that in its heyday, probably about 40% of the people working for NPR would have a conservative bent. And now they did a survey and it was 0.
Yeah.
And the mere fact that he approached the president or the person who ran NPR and said, look, we can't run a news station like this. He was vilified for merely saying, having 0 conservative perspective, even if I don't believe in conservative perspective, I would make the place 50-50. Like,
right.
I can't see it wouldn't.
Especially when your biggest show is called All Things Considered.
Right. Well, it's not considered. And, and again,
all things so long as you're left of Chairman Mao.
And I think, and I talked about this already in the comedy front, Mr. Donald Trump is the earthquake that has fundamentally changed everything. And we haven't recovered from it. I don't mean it in the fact that we need to recover from Donald. Don't start peppering Midnight's Edge with hate comments. My point is that the left just went berserk. And they've never recovered from.
Oh, he was their Waterloo in a lot of ways. He's like the dividing line. He's their 9/11.
Yeah, yeah, and they just got to get away from it. They got to walk away from that and get back to being more accommodating to everybody.
Well, that unfortunately was the mask off moment because it wasn't him that did something. He just broke their minds.
Yeah,
broke out all of the dams that had been built up with various insanities. He just made those dams broke so that they went completely and utterly insane.
I think that's a good
that's
analysis.
part of what has ruined Hollywood and everything. I mean, it certainly ruined like Terminator, Woke Fate. I mean, that was like anti-Trump movie like everything else. And all of these things, they completely and utterly tanked at the box office. That can't be ignored.
We have a little wrinkle in this. I just checked this person out, and she does check out. She has been an additional crew on IMDb. This Natalie Sands says, can confirm that Rose Locke lady is no saint herself.
Oh.
When I started off in film as a stand-in, she screamed and cussed me out when I was 19 years old for being stuck in traffic on the way to set. I'm sure she was no peach to deal with. Horrible person.
Wow.
So there are people, evidently at least one person so far, clapping back at this lady.
Wow.
Color me unsurprised.
The real story is that girl assumed her gender.
I have one of those in my appalling news video. I have an ER, a front desk person that opines in her video that she's concerned by the hundreds of people coming through ER not gendering her correctly. That's her video. People with gunshot wounds in the head.
Yeah, a guy's got like a hubcap hanging out of his sternum. It's like, hey, lady.
Yep. Oh, I'm not lady. I'm a he, him. Shut up.
It's ma'am. Now bleed to death.
You just assume I'm a woman.
Right?
Well, man. So, yes, she's insisting that. And she says, if only I had a name tag.
Yeah. Can you imagine the nightmare that is going to be like police lineups in the future?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, have you seen that skit that came out where the woke person's trying to report a crime? It's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
That came out a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Mad TV did a version of that years ago. Because
that's just it. All of this comes off like a Mad TV or an In Living Color skit half.
Yeah, political correctness has been around a long while.
Sure, but now it's illegal. You cannot misgender someone.
Well, we can do blackface now.
Or you'll make J-Lo's kid
As
mad.
long as you're the Prime Minister of Canada, I guess.
Yeah, I was
Well-
about to say you can do that provided you're the Prime Minister of.
No.
of
Billy D.
the-
Williams gave us permission.
He gave us our blackface card back, folks. You want to start a minstrel show? You want to? No.
He would be all for that.
I'm
So you guys missed this news?
I'm actually gonna tap dance on a deep fried watermelon. I think.
Did you guys miss this news? This is actually was going around yesterday.
Spill the beans there, Tom.
Okay, well, Billy D. Williams was on the Bill Maher podcast, not the real time one, but the one he does where he gets people drunk and stoned.
Yeah,
Right.
the one where he pretends
just talk
to be
shit.
moderate. That one.
Yeah, pretty much. But the fun thing about these is when we actually get some good stuff like this. So basically, Bill was talking about how Laurence Olivier did blackface as Othello, right? And how you couldn't do that now.
Right.
And so here was Billy D. Williams'
thought
response.
it was hysterical.
He said it was hysterical.
I loved it. But see, I love that kind of stuff.
Yes,
I
big
love-
asses. Who doesn't?
No.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay.
But here's the thing. Today, I mean, they would never let you do that.
Why?
Blackface?
Why
you-
not?
Because
You should do it.
that's maybe.
God, I love Lando.
If you're an actor, you should do anything you want to do.
There you go. See, that's the thing. That's what he's getting at.
Can I
This
say
is-
something? Don't get rid of the picture. Having
Oh no, there's
a-
more to it.
Well, hold on. Having a can of Colt there is racist. I just want to say.
He probably brought it.
You know what? You're probably right.
Well, he's a black
I've
guy. I
heard
think
he
it's more
actually
like Magnum. I don't.
I actually heard he does drink it.
Well,
It
Colt
works
is the
every
devil
time.
here.
But yeah, so there's actually more to this. He keeps going, but yeah, I just wanted to get everybody's reaction to
Oh,
that.
yeah.
That's a great point of view, but the theater would be bombed.
Oh, I mean, Muni and I used to talk about this all the time. Muni was the one who was the first person that I worked with in those years who said to
Let's
me,
talk about Paul
if
Muni.
whatever, as an actor, you should be able to do whatever you think you can do, you should be able to do it.
But again, not to bring up your sore point, but you actually lived in a period where you couldn't do that, where you couldn't
But that
play the
didn't
part
matter.
you should have played.
But it didn't matter. The point is,
And that's a great attitude, but it still did happen.
of course it happened. I mean,
Okay.
but the fact is that you discuss
it's
it.
good
Everybody
Bill
can
Maher is here
talk
to
about-
explain this to a black man who's been an actor for decades upon decades.
Well, that's the thing. Billy could have went a lot of different ways with this, but I do like his response here.
It means that it wasn't happening.
But I mean,
But
and
the
Paul
point
Muni
is
comes from an
But you
era.
don't go through life feeling like I'm a victim.
Correct. I
Ooh.
couldn't agree with that more. I'm just.
I mean, I refuse to go through life
No.
saying to the world, I'm pissed off. I'm not going to be pissed off 24 hours a day.
And you shouldn't.
Well, yeah,
'cause
you're
of all
Billy
that
D.
pussy
Williams,
you
for
got.
Christ's sake.
That's what I've been trying to tell you.
Oh, boy.
But
You're a very sick person.
not a sick person.
Nice. Yes.
And that's
Oh,
basically what he said was basically you're Billy D. Williams and you get all the pussy. So like he's like, yeah.
It's true. If you're Billy D. Williams, who walk into
Of
a
course
room,
you do.
every pair of panties
Well-
in a 5-block radius disintegrates. Like,
And what's great is you have guys like Billy D. Williams, Denzel said similar things to this, Morgan Freeman said similar things to this. We just lost Louis Gossett Jr., who's another guy I put in this category. These guys that I just mentioned, along with Sidney Poitier and a few others that I'm sure you could put in this category, are guys who rose above their race, right? We don't consider them black actors. We consider them great actors, right? Like that's the difference here. Billy D. Williams is in that category. He didn't get the role of Lando Calrissian because he was black.
yeah,
He got the
Yeah,
role
but
of Lando Calrissian because he was Billy D. fucking Williams. That's
you know what
why.
you know what it reminds me of? It's a clip that I put in a video one time. Actually, in the first video of Depths of Deep Space Nine, because I review Star Trek Deep Space Nine episode by episode. We're like deep into season 5 now. And in the first one, I talked about Avery Brooks, right, who is a magnificent actor himself. And
Oh,
he was
another guy.
asked-
Yeah.
there's this brilliant clip of him being asked at a convention, what was it like? And of course, he's asked by a white dude, what was it like to be the first black captain? And he's like, you can't be a black captain. Like, what's a black captain? I can be a captain. I can be a father. Like, what are you even talking about? And the guy's like, literally, he embarrasses this dude, like, just because the question's so stupid. But
There was
it's-
another similar one where he was being interviewed and he said something similar, but he was on like a vineyard. I think it's outside of his place. But yeah, I seen him say something similar. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this also reminds me of what Raven Simone said to Oprah Winfrey here this last year. Do you guys remember that interview when she stopped Oprah dead in her tracks because Oprah was like trying to talk to her about being an African American, and she's like, "Why can't I just be an American?" Yeah, like why do I have to be an African American?
Sorry,
or black or anything like that? And it's basically the same as like an actor going, "Why do I have to be a black actor? Why can't I just be an actor?" That's kind of like what I'm seeing here, right? And that's kind of what to me, it was great that he said this, but there's so many people coming after him now, like jokingly in some ways, but like in some ways saying like, "Oh, you can't be saying that shit." Like,
I'm not certain that we can put the social justice warrior genie back in the bottle. There's just so much.
You don't think so?
No,
it has to burn itself out.
It has to somehow. Yeah. I think you need to take Twitter off the air completely.
So in other words, we need a president to get a blowjob again so we can end this shit. That's what we need.
A black president to get a blowjob.
Well, that's what finished it last time. PC was happening hardcore, and then all of a sudden the president got a blowjob and everybody forgot about it.
Oh, they never forgot about it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know it resurfaced as woke. I know.
Oh, yeah, like post 9/11, you don't remember that political correctness? Like what?
Just one-sided though. That was very one-sided. Yeah. See, I don't know if we can count it if it's just one particular group.
Yeah, but my recollection was that someone pointed out to Lucas, and I could be wrong. Dude, you have no black people of color characters in the first movie. And so he created Lando specifically for that. Now, the fact that Billy D. Williams got the role, he got it because he was black.
But he also got it because he was Billy D. Williams. He could have cast just any old black person.
I get it. No, I totally could have put Sidney Poitier in there. I don't care. But the role was created because someone pointed out to George that, Star Wars is pretty wet.
Well, and the only reason that wasn't, he said at the time, it wasn't anything like he had thought about. It was just where they were. No, I know. I'm just explaining, though.
Shooting in England, right?
Yeah, they were shooting in England and shit like that. So all the extras and everything were all white.
Yeah.
It's just like people think that he meant for all the empire to be British. It's like, no, that just happened to be where all the actors were from. And then he ended up overdubbing a lot of them anyway. So,
well, but the bad guys to Americans always sound British.
Yeah.
Well,
then people overlooked that Obi-Wan spoke with a British accent too. So
there's that too, but that was Alec Guinness.
Oh yeah, and freaking Leia was doing like the worst British accent for like the first half of the movie, and then it just
that was something George insisted she did or something.
Really?
Like that. Yeah. She's supposed to have this regal, like posh accent, basically. Like it just doesn't work, and then she drops it basically she drops it right around the Flyboy scene, right around there. Yeah, from there on out, she doesn't even really do it.
I think Chewbacca's English accent was very unreal.
It was amazing. You know what's amazing is if you find the scenes where you actually hear Peter Mayhew doing his lines, because Chewie actually had lines originally. No, he actually does say things like Obi-Wan Kenobi when he takes off to go take care of the tractor beam. There's a shot and he goes, "That old man is mad," and then like it's like he literally just says it, and then Harrison Ford responds to that. Like it's weird. So like there's a whole version of the movie where it's just Peter Mayhew doing Chewie's lines, like he had actual lines.
British playing bad guys was so ingrained that when I was a young lad, and then for many years I thought the Nazis all spoke with British accents. If you watch the movies of the era, right?
Right. Kind of like how all Indians are Mexicans.
That's right. There.
Okay, that's okay. The Germans consider British guys the enemy too, so that's
true. Hello, so this is what you're going to be doing. Yeah, this is all very.
I expect you to die, Mr. Bond.
Mr. Bond. That's right. Und?
Yeah. I thought that was a funny story. I'm surprised you guys didn't hear about it because it was all over the internet last night. Billy D. Williams giving us all our black card back, basically saying we can all do blackface again. So we got a pass.
Good stuff. Now, can I wear a purple cape? That's the real question.
Yes, you always could.
Excellent.
Well, except for when
all
Prince
I really
arrived.
need to know from Lando.
I think he had the trademark on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the purple cape on Lando. That was pretty
I think
badass.
he was just channeling James Brown.
Yeah, no, that's funny. Well, that's kind of weird. It makes me wonder if maybe that's why Samuel Jackson wanted the purple lightsaber. Now that makes a little more sense.
Ah,
Because that was the thing is he goes to George, he goes, do I get to pick my color of my lightsaber? He's like, yeah, they come in blue and green. He's like, well, I don't want blue or green. Well, what do you want? He's like, I want mine to be purple. Okay. Because he can't say no to Samuel Jackson. He even has bad motherfucker inscribed on his lightsaber too.
nice.
Yeah. Well, it says BMF, but yeah. It's a callback to the wallet thing from Pulp Fiction. Because his wallet says bad motherfucker on it. But anyway, we got some breaking news here. This is semi-breaking news. This is stuff we've heard about in the background for a while happening, but I thought they'd never actually get there because I thought Battleship taught them a lesson. But evidently they're going forward with Monopoly, and not only that, they got Barbie starring in it. Huh.
So is she just gonna be in all the like children's toy movies now? Like,
Well, there may not be a sequel to Barbie, so I guess that needed something else to fall back on. And for those that are only watching, Monopoly movie based on the ancient board game officially announced to be in the works from Margot Robbie and Studio Lionsgate. Just announced at 9:52 Pacific time, which would be not too long ago.
Not too long ago.
Yeah. So Monopoly movie. How is that going to be any more successful than the Battleship movie? Because remember, we already have a Tetris movie as well. That was pretty darn amazing. So
well, that's different. Yeah, see, that's
all
about the
the
game
execution
itself.
of this one.
Yeah, and Gran Turismo's similar in that respect.
And it says even here in the article, it's unclear how Robbie and company plan to spin a narrative story from the two-dimensional world of Monopoly.
Is it really though? Is it really though? You think they had to twist a Hollywood scriptwriter's arm to, hey, rich evil guys owning everything and buying?
I was gonna say we already got this movie. It was called Wall Street.
Yeah, no kidding. I think she was in it. It was Wolf of Wall Street.
Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah, there you go.
This is a good point. Yeah, so she's already been in a Monopoly movie. No, but there's many ways you can do this. I mean, you could go back and because, like, for instance, that rich Uncle Pennybags. I mean, that's like based on J.P. Morgan, isn't it? So you could kind of like do a J.P. Morgan movie here about him and his friends gradually controlling the world, and we suffering the consequences and paying the price of that today. I mean, that's a movie that I would want to see. But that may be a little bit too on the nose for them.
Didn't they kind of do that already in like The Big Short? That'd be kind of like basically what it would be then.
Yeah, not quite, because that wasn't the machinations that led to it. That was just like uncovering the massive systemic flaw. Whereas here, Monopoly, this is a matter of manipulate and game the system and to everyone else's disadvantage. So you win everything yourself. I mean, there are many ways that you can do this movie.
Well, I would say that the most successful way to probably do this movie would go the Tetris route. They're not going to, unless that's the case, because I believe the game was created by a woman.
Yes.
See, and that's the thing, because, and I believe it was right after or during the Depression, if I'm not mistaken, Paul. You were alive then, weren't you?
Yes.
But like, yeah, so and
I mean, caused the Depression, right?
It caused the Depression. Well, it caused many fights among families, like, right? Like from Parker Brothers, the game that destroyed families for generations. It's Monopoly. Now, like, I think that'd be a more interesting story, be how the actual game was developed, created, became success than trying to create like a Barbie movie type version of Monopoly. I don't think that would work. I really don't. There's how? I mean, you could do what you're saying, Andre, but either way you go at it, the only way you could make it and do it seriously would be like a Wolf of Wall Street or something along those lines. I mean, otherwise, is it a cartoon? I mean, what are you going to do? What kid is going to give a shit about Monopoly, right? Like, is it going to be about the dog trying to get home? I mean, what? Like, I don't get it. Like, what are you going to do?
Cast as the slipper, I think.
Yeah, the slipper. Yeah. What the hell? Like, the iron? Like, who's going to play the iron? Yeah.
George Clooney as the top hat.
And Jeremy Irons as the iron? Like, there you go. I really, honestly, Andre, I mean, maybe you could do something along those lines, but
I can see it, dude. I can see it from space. You're going to have like an awkward Trump Tower on Park Place allegory thing. No, absolutely, dude.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
I can see it coming from 9 miles away.
That is the risk here. That is the risk that that this can be made into this pure manipulative thing, making this, especially depending on what's going to happen, like in the election in November, because right now Hollywood is once again hyper focused on that. I mean, they even came gunning for The Rock because he kind of like walked back his endorsement for 2020 and decided not to take any stance on this one, but I mean, on this one, and that pissed off all of his friends in Hollywood. For how dare you not do the same this time?
Yeah, because he's probably making like 10 times a week being on the board of TKO is why he doesn't need to make as many movies.
I think Margot is just going through all the 60-year-old game properties.
Yeah.
I think that's what she's doing.
Yeah.
She's grinding through them. She's going to do Yahtzee next.
Yes, yes. Scrabble. Of course, we'll have to find a Hollywood writer who actually knows words first.
Well, did you see that Scrabble changed their rules now so it can be less fucking hard? It's like we've gone down as a society when Scrabble has to change its rules so it's not as difficult anymore for people.
Oh, we've given up. I mean, here in Ontario, the mechanics school that my son went to, the teachers there have stopped telling the high schools that the kids they're churning out don't know math worth shit, and they just automatically send the kids to a remedial math class. Like it's not even something that you can pick. My son is very good at math, and he had to go with all these idiots because the universities and colleges have given up on the high schools because they're just sending them.
Well, that's where I felt bad for my kid because he did not, do as well in most areas, but math was one that he excelled in. But being in autistic and being in all those programs, he was stuck in such a low level math class. I kept asking him, is there any way we can get him into a higher level of math? Because he's really good at that. But
oh no, because you can't stream people anymore.
Nope.
No, that's done. So literally, the universities have a mandatory class. They just don't even talk to the Ontario School Board. We're putting stupid people in here for a year, and you're going to learn your math.
Well, I really can't wait till we get Uno starring Antonio Banderas.
Yeah. I always thought that was a very Oriental game.
I don't know. Uno is Uno, dos, tres.
No, you're thinking of gambling.
I'm looking forward to Poker, the movie. That should be fun.
You know what?
We already got that. It's called Rounders. That was a great film.
Lizzo can star in Hungry Hungry Hippo.
Oh my.
Yeah. Snap.
That'll be
no, it's
movie,
2024. Though. She'll be in the strip poker movie.
Oh shit, don't do that to us.
Yeah.
Do not do that to us.
Yep. Or can't build a stage.
You're welcome for the mental image, audience. You're welcome.
That's right.
Oh, Lord.
Operation. There's the movie Operation.
Operation.
There's lots
starring
of
Danny DeVito as the doctor.
Yeah, well, he's the right.
I'm just trying to get your bone out. Just hit your bread basket.
Mousetrap. Oh, they already did a Mousetrap, actually.
Didn't they? Yeah, they did with Lane and.
Well, that was the name of the Agatha Christie book, not the game.
Oh, right. That was Mouse Hunt.
And of course, they did Clue back in the day.
Well, yeah. Clue is a little different. See, Clue is one that actually lends itself to this idea, right? A little bit easier. Like some things I can see, but you're talking a very small, minuscule. Like we talked about video games endlessly for the last few weeks about ones that could be movie properties or whether or not they could translate or couldn't translate. You're literally, when it comes to like board games, Clue is like maybe the only outlier of all of them. Maybe Candyland you could make as a kid's movie, right? Like outside of those two possibilities that I can think of offhand, because they even tried Battleship, and they knew it was going to be boring unless they added aliens, and that still didn't work, right?
Well, if Monopoly was strip Monopoly with Margot and they just shot it,
well, everybody'd watch that.
Well, then, yeah, that's my point.
But
and
that's just Wolf of Wall Street all over again.
Values would make tons of money.
Not that I'm complaining and saying I wouldn't watch that, but I'm just reminding everybody that just basically would be like Wolf of Wall Street 2. Yeah. Margot's Revenge.
Good luck to them.
Yes. Well, let's get to these super chats because we've got a few of them here. All in Octavian Moldovan sends a member chat for 32 months. Says, hello, panel. Razor. You were right yesterday. Catalyst only holds the license on Battletech. Hope not for long. Hopes, wishes for Mech Warrior 5 clans.
I have no hopes for or wishes for it. It's being made by Piranha. It'll be another Piranha Mech Warrior game.
Ah, there you go. Chaos Sonic 1 sends in 5 and says, Razor, you know about DEI's new name Bridge? Yeah. Also get broke, then you get woke, then you go bankrupt.
Yeah. Yeah, people say it's go woke, go broke, whatever, but I've corrected that for a long time. It's really go broke, get woke, ultimately croak, because they need the DEI funding, and so they embrace that. They wind up going woke, and then they ultimately lose what remains of their audience.
You're not wrong, Razor, because that's what I try to remind people too. That's what got me into this was before the politics, was I was just getting sick and tired of the McDonaldization of everything. That's what I called it. Like everything that they were pumping out was just one after the other, the same as the last. Don't expect anything new, right? Like that's kind of what it was before woke, and then woke started happening. Because you're right, because Hollywood was on the brink of imploding at that point. Because they just didn't know how to do anything but remakes and shitty comic book movies.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and as I always hasten to point out, before Disney took this direction, before they started gobbling stuff up, we're not that far removed from them. There being bankruptcy rumors around Disney, like in the mid 2000s ish, right? They were not on pleasant footing at all. Then they just started buying their way out of it, basically. They bought a bunch of properties and franchises, and that was the Bob Iger strategy. So you generally see this with companies that are desperate. The only real outlier, and that's probably because I think they know it wouldn't work, is Warner Brothers. Not that they're completely non-woke, but they were struggling mightily years ago. I remember hearing about them having released like while Disney was releasing maybe like 5 major tentpole pictures in a year and making billions and whatever, Warner Brothers was releasing like 25 in a year and making like a quarter that. Warner Brothers was struggling.
Well, here's the thing, and I knew some people from behind the scenes there at Warner for a while, and the thing I kept hearing was just how much of a clusterfuck the company was, and how everything was compartmentalized, but nobody would work with each other or talk to each other. And if they were to talk to each other, there was always animosity and problems. In fact, I've told the funny story about how Batman the Animated Series finally got released on Blu-ray. And it all boiled down to they were so compartmentalized at that time that DC wasn't really like its own studio section. So they didn't have control over all the properties. Like if it was the animated series, it was under the family home entertainment side of things. If it was the movie, it was under the movie side of things. If it was a television show, it was under the television side of things. And DC Entertainment side of things would keep telling them, look, people want the Batman animated series, get it out there. And finally, after years, they buckled, but they first put it out as a Warner Brothers archive release because they didn't think it would have the interest behind it. It sold out within like the first hour. Yeah. So like, oh shit. And then they went and released it widely instead of just doing it as a limited release. So that just shows you how dumb they were. And that was more recent, right? Like you go back the last 20 years, you've had Toby Emmerich running the fucking company, and this guy should have never been running the company to begin with. This guy's claim to fame at New Line Cinema, as I remind people, is all he ever did that was any worth of any to bring up at all was he stole the idea for Frequency, that movie with Dennis Quaid that nobody remembers. It's a good movie, but he stole the idea, and he was completely busted about it. But he's the one who got the head of the studio over 2 or 3 other people that should have gotten it. And they honestly, they should have handed it over to Robert Shea the moment everything happened anyway, but they
Yeah,
fucked him out of it.
can't steal all your ideas. Who do you think you are, James Cameron? Jesus.
Right? That's the thing is you steal and fake your way up to the top in Hollywood. And then this DEI shit came in. Yeah, that's where they injected the money. And we've been on top of that for the last few years too. But
well, you know what they
great
say,
takes on it too.
Amateurs borrow, professionals steal. That's words to live by.
Yeah. Who is it? Dan O'Bannon, I think, said, I don't just steal a few things, I steal everything. I think that's what it's something like that along those lines. I'm sure I'm fucking up the saying, but yeah, you get what I'm saying. Like, yeah. You know who Dan O'Bannon is or not, but the guy who wrote Alien. We got a Rumble rant. That's right. We're on the Rumble side of things. We got Partsy, who sends in $1 and says, I want to thank Chato for recommending solo leveling last week. I have a lot of fun. It's also super Gamergate-ish. And then he dabbed that thingy where you do the thing. I'm not hip. I'm not with it. Chaos Sonic sends in 5 and says, everyone ever heard of the new study about how people are just going back to playing old video games instead of playing new games in general? Yeah, we were talking about this.
Yes, video is coming about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's fantastic. I've been saying this for years. Dude, there are so many amazing indie games out there, but there are so many retro games just waiting for you to discover. And some of these retro games, I mean, people will have their minds blown if you were to try them. I mean, I can just mention some really, truly amazing ones for the Sega Mega Drive. These are games you mentioned BattleTech earlier. There's a BattleTech game on the Sega Mega Drive or the Genesis. It's not a bad one, not bad at all. But you also have some amazing manga style games like Masin Saga, Mutant Fighter, and Ranger X. These are some truly amazing games.
Oh gosh, recent speaking of Mega Drive / Genesis, a game, and Disney, incidentally, a remaster of the Sega Genesis version of Disney's Gargoyles came out just recently, and it's superb. By the way, it's excellent.
Oh, wow.
They redrew all the sprites in high definition, so it's like it looks like a moving cartoon.
Where can one find this thing? Is it on Steam or something? Because also the original game.
Yeah, Mercenary X, who super chatted earlier, he bought me a copy, which was really nice of him.
Nice.
But yeah, it's on Steam. It's amazing. I've been playing it for the last week or so.
Yeah, no, because the original Gargoyles on the Mega Drive, it was one of the latter games to be released, so it was technologically among the best you could do in the 16-bit generation. So it was always fantastic, and it's been made even better than all the better. Another amazing game for both the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, Phantom 2040.
Oh,
check
what
it
a
out
great
and
game.
Thank me later.
Yeah, if people talk, I love the Phantom, number one, but, and we never really got a Phantom game. We're about to get one, by the way. There's a new Phantom beat-em-up game coming out. Yeah, in a pure comic book style. It's wonderful. I think they're making it in, I don't know, it's like a European studio or something is making it. But yeah, that's supposed to come out relatively soon, sometime later this year. But
you
Phantom
links about this. I have no idea.
Yeah, Phantom 2040 is like, it was the cartoon. It was a French anime, actually, in the 90s, and like a cyberpunk thing designed by Peter Chung, the guy from Aeon Flux. So it's the show he did kind of apart from Aeon Flux. So it's got that style, that cyberpunk kind of weird angular style. They made a game out of the show, and if today, Metroidvania games are all the rage, right? Games that are kind of Castlevania-esque, Metroid-esque, and Phantom 2040 is, I'm not even kidding you, one of the best ones you can play in your life.
It's one of the most underrated games ever made.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah. And it's a crying shame that the full Phantom 2040 hasn't been released on Blu-ray in a complete series ever. Because if there's an animation that screams for a Blu-ray release in addition to the 2002 He-Man series, it's Phantom 2040.
Yeah, it's the same studio and creative team that did Aeon Flux. That's been on Blu-ray forever.
That Aeon Flux was one weird cartoon.
Yeah. This is Peter Chung a little bit more restrained, but it's really, really good.
I think you'd enjoy it. This is a little bit more Blade Runner like.
I mean, look, we talked about Batman the Animated Series. It has been remarked by many, many people that Batman Beyond was essentially a ripoff of Phantom 2040. Basically,
I can see that.
Yeah, Phantom 2040 comes out in like 96 or something like that, and Batman Beyond was shortly after.
94 came out in 94.
Yeah,
when did Spider-Man 2099? Was that after or before too? I was trying to remember.
No, that's in the comics. That was around. I think that was a little bit earlier. Actually, I think that's
another one too that I was going to say that did it before.
93 was like the 2000.
No, and this trend is something I've noticed. And I mean, we all have noticed, and not just in everything, right? And the reason is because everything's shit. Kids are sick of the DEI. They're sick of all the other stuff that we're going to be releasing in a video soon. The adult wise, I mean, we always consume, like, that's the thing. Our generation, our group of people, including Paul's generation, to a point where we are people that every time they release something, we get pissed, but we know we got to buy the White Album again. God damn it. Yeah. You know, it's like whenever something new comes out, we're going to be buying that thing again, whatever it is. So we're used to that. But these younger kids are discovering this stuff now for the first time. That's where I think vinyl's making a comeback for that reason. We've talked about this endlessly, so I'm not going to drag it, but yeah, that's a trend that we've seen a lot. Yeah.
I like this comment. That Showbiz says Blackthorn should have had more imitators. What a great SNES game. Yeah, I agree. That is a great SNES game.
Like a shooter. Was even
greater?
Yeah.
Blackthorn on the Sega 32X.
Yeah.
Check it out what? And thank me later.
You know what I heard most people say after seeing the Mario Brother movie last year? That movie made them want to go pick up the old original game and play it again.
Yeah.
See, and that's, you know, it's that nostalgic invoking itself, you know, or nostalgia invoking itself there, and it worked, right?
Yeah.
And if they keep doing that, then it'll work more. Yeah.
We were talking about Nintendo and the Switch having so much better of a business model. One of the things that they have been doing so much better than Sony and Microsoft is keeping their back catalog out there through the virtual console stuff. So when people watch the Mario movie, they were probably very likely going home, turning on the Switch, and literally playing the old Mario games on their virtual console without question.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a trend that I'm happy to see, but it also sets a sad precedent, or says a lot about what's going on currently with entertainment, right?
Yeah.
But let's keep moving on with these super chats because we got quite a few. We got this one already, but thank you, Chaos Sonic. Jay says, remember when Sony got pissy when people broke PS3 and installed Linux on it? I kind of vaguely remember that.
I did that.
How dare you make our console
My kid
functional.
had a cracked one. Sorry, go ahead.
I would say again, the PlayStation 3 jailbroken is the best media center of that time. It was tremendous. It could do everything, and it took years for technology to kind of like leave it in the wayside. But again, yeah, the PlayStation 3 with the Linux, it could do everything. It could even play games. That was a nice bonus feature.
Theoretically.
Over on the Rumble side, Mr. Tivitrunk sends in a buck and says Western gaming is calogenophobia. Fear of beautiful women. Okay. Or use the Chris Gore version, hotphobic or attractophobia. Yeah, attractophobia is the one I like.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Deus Pigeon? Deus Pigeon sends in $5. Says Outlaws is just the tip of the iceberg. Tom Clancy's Heartlands playtest characters are trans and non-binary, complete with they them pronouns. Oh, lovely. I didn't know Tom Clancy was so woke. Chaos Sonic 1 sends in 5 and says, Razor, the way you say it, that with Lara Croft, say it like prawn parody, not going to lie.
Oh, the description sounds like a porn parody. I can't argue with you there.
Indeed. And then we got Minnesota Fats.
They've put a warning on the reissue of the first 3 modern Tomb Raiders that this this series might give you a boner, don't play it.
They did though. It has insensitive elements and colonialism and whatever. And now we know why they did that. Of course, at the time, I had a little. Sorry, Paul. I had a little bit of a rant that I recorded when I streamed that game that went kind of semi-viral or whatever, because I was pointing out that what had happened ahead of the release of those remasters was that Crystal Dynamics didn't make them. First off, they like outsourced the publisher, the people who own the property now, Embracer. They heard from fans that they really wanted remasters, so they really pushed for it. And Crystal Dynamics went kicking and screaming. They didn't want to do it. They opposed it at every turn.
Why?
Because they have their new woke version of Lara Croft that they want to push.
Oh,
and this was going to remind fans, hey, this series used to not suck, right? It's the last thing in the world they wanted. So I'm thoroughly persuaded at this point that it was twofold. Number one, they had this new stuff that we just saw revealed that was going to be coming down the pike. And the other thing was, at the end of the... Hold on a second. Hold on.
Oh, it's a delivery.
While you're doing that, you sent me a picture here in the background.
Yeah. So
explain this to me.
I don't know if you've seen it, but Intel.
Okay, sorry. I heard my dog just as...
Oh, okay.
But no, it was to undermine the game. As I said in my original video, it was to undermine my game. I don't know if you could hear it. My dog is the size of a moose.
Couldn't hear the dog.
Sorry about that, guys.
Dogs are important.
But yeah, the other thing was that they wanted to undermine it. I'm thoroughly persuaded that they literally put that in there so it would be like negative viral. So
wow. That's it's a shame because the first two especially were fantastic.
Oh, absolutely.
Anyway.
Oh, and Paul,
what's this about, Paul? Yeah.
And the thing is, she would be going to the Mayan temple or whatever and stealing non-existent stuff. Like, it's not colonialism. she wasn't taking Nefertiti's bust. It was the lost magnet of Skalgalar.
Yeah.
That's colonialism. And
some of it had superpowers.
Yes.
Like, won't anyone think of the superpowered Viking artifact colonialism?
So I just got this in my mail from my computer store, Canada Computers. There's a plug for them. Intel is partnered up with the Star Wars Outlaw game and Ubisoft. But if you zoom in, you'll see how exciting this game is. I don't know if you can zoom. Can you zoom in on that?
I have to open it up in a new thing here. Hang on.
But this is hilarious. This is
move the super chat momentarily.
So we can do that. So I can only do one thing at once, though.
This is hilarious. Yeah, no, Tom can't do two things at once.
No, I'm not multi-talented.
Multitasking is for women.
Okay, there we go. Now scroll up. She's carrying a duffel bag. Scroll down. Look at that. That's exciting. Holy smokes. I've got the video.
I'm surprised they let her have a gun.
No, she doesn't. Oh, maybe on her hip there, but she's not holding it.
Well, that's her gun right there in her hand.
Are you telling us that's a hairdryer?
Yeah, either that or it's her hairdryer.
No,
it could be.
The dude behind her has got that.
No, that's her.
That's her hand.
No, it's not.
Looks like it to me.
Yeah, it is.
Anyways, no, she's got like a duffel bag in the left hand.
His hand is all behind her here.
Yeah, his hand is behind
that's
her.
Her arm.
She is holding that.
I mean, she might be a Druish princess, and you're right. That might be a hairdryer.
No, that's his metal boner.
And I can't live without it.
It's
a good thing. It's a good thing that human-sized robot decided to put on a trench coat in case he got cold.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's a hairdryer.
Yeah.
It's a Jewish hairdryer.
I stand corrected, but man, I want that duffel bag. I hope they release that duffel bag.
They will.
Toys R Us.
Well, you guys got Toys R Us still up there, but we don't.
We have Babies R Us, I think, are left. That's it. That's all that's left.
Well, you better hurry. This offer ends July 21st.
That's right.
Or July 31st.
Yeah, 2028. Better hurry, get it.
Yeah. I hope no one will hurry to get it. I hope that no one is in any kind of rush whatsoever to get this game. They should be in a rush to get Phantom 2040 on both the Super Nintendo and the Sega Mega Drive, and just find some way to play that instead and discover one of the greatest Metrovanias ever made with excellent music, graphics, and everything.
Have you noticed, Andre? Have you noticed, Andre? Almost everything and every game box you talk about is jailbroken or something to some effect. Everything. It's a typical European approach to gaming.
Yes, it is. It's the ways of my people.
He's a rebel. He is. Like him and my kid would get along when it comes to gaming.
I mean, there's a reason why, for instance, I swear by Android mobiles and not Apple. I'm never having an Apple product. You know why? Because I will put what I want on that device.
Yeah.
Whether it be movie, game, comic, or whatever, and where it came from is none of your fucking business. You can only do that with Android. Can't do that with Apple.
He sounds like my kid right now. This is weird. But anyway, we had Minnesota Fats on screen.
Sorry,
in Minnesota, were you working on the set of Tulsa King? I heard about that. Yes, The Hustler is excellent. Literature doubles scathed the Star Wars Outlaws trailer on this morning's stream. It's more stupid, boys. This is a real story. Shtick from holier than thou female writers, but I repeat myself. So this is the game we just had the thing on screen for. So there you go. So it was timely. So yeah, it doesn't sound like it's anything good. No surprise there. Anybody else got anything to say about Star Wars Outlaws? All right.
Has anyone seen
don't play it.
No, don't play it. I guess a trailer dropped or something like that.
Yeah,
Base player.
And some SJW instantly bragged about having written it. And the more you read about that writer, the more you knew instantly, oh, this is going to be awful.
Right. Every time I hear about a new Star Wars game, I just think about Kathleen Kennedy complaining that, or no, it was Bob Iger, right? Oh, we got rid of our video games division. It's like, who made that decision? Right? He was lamenting that recently. Like, oh, we really got hurt by the fact that we didn't have any video games to exploit. Right?
Yeah, if we only had LucasArts.
You only had LucasArts, just a little studio like that. No big deal. That's how they got to this place. Yeah, that's why we're looking at this turd.
Anyway, Base Player 2011 Iffy says for $4.99, Tom, you wanting realism is why every single game looks so samey. And all of you are welcome to join the PCMR.
No, I think most of the games looking samey is because these people just use the same engines, the same models and shit just to keep reusing the same shit over and over.
Well, that's what happens when everyone uses
over and again.
And Unity.
Yeah,
and
exactly. Now, what
reality stuff. So yeah, it goes with the territory.
When I say realism, I don't necessarily always mean that it has to look photorealistic. I'm talking about like when I play a baseball game, what I thought was really cool is when you got into like the MLB The Shows for the PS3 system. Like, my God, it felt like you were actually watching a fucking game while you were playing it, right? Like it was getting that to that point, and the like the abilities you had to, you know, with the players and set them up and all that kind of stuff, the realism, the physics, the everything that went along with it. Like that kind of stuff is what I mean too, though. But they haven't really innovated either on either side. So yeah.
And Chato unfortunately has to be leaving
as
us.
usual.
I'm just going to see if there's any super chats addressing you on the way out the door. Meanwhile, while we do that, what videos have you published lately that needs plugging and needs checking out?
Well, please flog my video today, which dovetails with what you were talking about earlier, how streaming has killed Hollywood and why. And it mostly came from just, you know, the Hollywood Reporter article that writers are now bereft of work. And, you know, I just go through the hubris and the lack of technological understanding of Hollywood, because they've tried streaming many, many times. Warner's had a massive test in Florida in the early 90s where they wired up a bunch of houses using internet cable, a coax cable, and tried to get streaming. Like this dream has always been there, and the studios have lost billions of dollars, and why each of the networks had to have their own streaming services to put new shows on the streaming services that competed with the new shows that they were making in their over-the-air broadcast service, diluting their ability to make new shows on the broadcast service, basically, heading off to the reality TV show heroin merchants, leaving us with no I Dream of Genies, no, My Mother the Cars, no more A-Team, no more Knight Rider or Baywatch, all those great shows. And now, what they've left, and they've abandoned their posts as network, as rulers of network TV. And what they've left, they've got nothing. And now, ironically, they're now putting advertising on their shitty streaming services. So they've gone from a big market, killed it, and now they're back to the shitty old stuff that they've been doing, but on a smaller market, which is brilliant.
Oh yeah, and it's hilarious. We started out with you bought a cable package and you got a bunch of channels. Now you have to pay for each individual channel. And it's obvious where this is going. It's eventually going to be bundled all together. And the only thing we will have done is replace a coaxial cable with an internet cable. That'll be the only difference. I've been saying
you're 100% right.
And
we all have.
During this process, what they've managed to do is chase people off to YouTube and also back to physical products.
Well, and what you just said was
they've completely, utterly screwed themselves.
They did it to themselves, right? It's literally the definition of cutting your own nose off your own face or whatever it is.
Despite
your face, because you're right. They killed a huge lucrative network, commercial system. And now they got this minimal system where they're getting pennies probably on the dollar to what they used to.
The networks have stopped making 24 episodes a year. What are the most popular shows on the streaming services? The old 24 episode a year shows.
Yep.
Like,
how much did who was it? Was it Hulu paid for? No, Netflix. How much did they pay for Seinfeld several years ago? You know what I mean?
100 million or something ridiculous.
Yeah, I think you're thinking of Friends, but it was 100 million. Yeah, but they did pay a pretty penny for Seinfeld too. I think.
And also The Office, they paid a huge amount of money.
That was another one they paid a bunch for.
And then you've got upstarts like, and I don't want to get. I mean, like Tubi and Pluto, which you can get for free.
Yeah.
And people are both those services are successful now because they're showing the old shit. Beverly Hillbillies. I mean, for dear Lord,
Unsolved Mysteries. Dude, I'm addicted to the Unsolved Mysteries on Pluto.
Yeah. Pluto is actually playing Mayberry RFD.
Yes. They've got 2 Star Trek channels on there.
Yes.
Yep. They have a Ninja Turtle channel on there too, yeah.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah, but most of the time it's playing Avatar: The Last Airbender for some reason.
That's weird. All right, we'll take care, Paul. And Mr. Tickle Trunk says for Canadian 2.
So please
Paul Chato and Action Com says Chato TV Guide episode. When?
I'm writing it now. Stop. I'm writing it now. I am watching the Korean TV show Parasite on Netflix. It's really good.
And then UM536 also loves Chato and Razor. Thank you for the $1.99.
Thank you. Nice to be
another cool Korean show on Netflix you should check out if you haven't, like the top 100 bodies or something. It's actually really cool.
I've heard of that. Yes.
It's really cool.
Yeah. I was going to recommend a Korean dog show. Favorite cooking show. Anyways. If Yan can cook, so can you. Anyway.
That's right. It's called Kim Chow.
Yes.
Anyways, Razor, you're very fast and witty, and nice to see you again. And Tom and Andre, keep unblocking those video game boxes. Keep hacking.
Keep on jailbreaking.
Keep jailbreaking, and I'll see you hopefully Friday.
Tonight.
Perfect.
It's going to be a jailbreak. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, let's do this one before we move on, because MV sent another $50 super chat. Thank you so much, saying, one source of entertainment that has not been affected much by SJW stuff is WWE. Their audience is mostly male, and they're doing well and had one of their best WrestleManias in a long time, giving their audience what they want. Well, fantastic. Kudos. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, it's one interpretation of events.
But I see there are obviously multiple interpretations of this, none of which I know anything about.
WWE are making record profit, it is true, but they're mostly doing it by scamming TV and streaming networks, by over leveraging their brand recognition with their actual ratings, which are in the toilet. And they've been unwatchable for 20 years and on a slow ratings decline for at least that long. And yeah, it's a much longer story with WWE.
Yeah, well, but seems to be working for them, so good on them. And and then let's just see. I think I saw one for you here before we go back to the top. Form 581 says for $5. Razor, have you any news about Catalyst's Shadowrun? I have not seen anything new.
Dude, they botched Shadowrun even harder than BattleTech. So yeah, basically take my rant about BattleTech and turn it up to 11. That's what they did with Shadowrun.
Oh well, that sucks for the fan base, I guess. Something else that sucks is that I just read that Neseblod, the black metal record store in Oslo, the heir to Helvete, which I'm sure Razorfist is very familiar with, burnt down.
Burnt down? What, did they think it was a church?
So yeah, that's it's still fresh. I'm not in Norway right now, otherwise I would have known. But yeah, no, that sucks a little bit. So yeah, we'll see. Hopefully not too much was lost and damaged, but more information on that as it gets available. And with that, let's get back to the top here. From the Rumble side of things, Mr. Tickle Truck sent us $5 saying, "You have to admire the balls to all of the gaslighting happening in entertainment over the last decade, as well as just how effective some of it has been. Make them pay, just walk away." Indeed. And Chaos Sonic 1 says for $5, "What made me lose interest in PlayStation was the same as Raging Golden Eagle did. They censored anime and fan service games, aka the main reason to get it." Yeah, I'll take your word for that. The DCV Titan really liked the 3D pixel art of Octopath Traveler.
Great game.
And STR Red Wolf says for $5, "Valve's Team Fortress 2 was aiming for hyperrealism, but found more value with a more cartoony, simplistic art style, lending to better stories." Yeah,
again, it all depends. Yeah. Sorry.
Sometimes you want to go with caricature, but because that enables you to tell other things or get away with stuff that you otherwise wouldn't be able to. I mean, that's why you had court jesters back in the day, even.
Yeah, it's why certain games have aged really well. Like, Zelda Wind Waker still looks pretty good because of the art style that they went with, right? There are certain games that use that to great effect. It doesn't work every time. Sometimes it just looks cheap, but other times, it really, as technology marches on, your game won't age quite as harshly as some others.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom, anything to add to that before we move on?
No, you guys are fine. We can keep going.
Kelechi Oki says for $5 on the Rumble side of thing, kind of shows how fucked current Rocksteady is. What they released in 2015 compared to what they released just a few months ago. The difference is night and day. Yeah, I'm guessing that this would be a reference to the Suicide Squad game, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
and I think they killed that on the online bit or something like that. Isn't that what I heard?
No, not yet. But they'll support it till the beginning of 2025, which for those keeping track is less than a year away. And there's still some DLCs coming with new characters and stuff. But again, what's the point? They're down to 2,000-3,000 daily players or something at this point. So the only reason any the DLC stuff is coming is because they've already made them. They're already ready to go. Because remember that like all other AAA games, it was released in a beta state. This is what I think is so offensive with modern gaming. I am not a beta tester. And what they do with gamers today is that you have them pay really high prices for the privilege of being beta testers.
Yeah.
No, usually you're supposed to pay people to be beta testers and to find the bug so that you can fix them and then release the game, not the other way around.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that's one of the reasons why I have mostly stayed out of gaming and why I'm such a passionate retro gamer. And the cool thing with retro games is that when you have the fans and the fans make a patch, that patch actually takes a finished product and makes it even better by finding some way of enhancing it, because you are no longer bound by the physical limitations of the original hardware. You can now add, for instance, a CD score, or you can add some kind of feature that couldn't be done with the limitations of the original hardware, or you can even fix, say, some balancing issues. So all this is amazing stuff, and that's different from basically releasing incompleted games and then completing them through patches. I mean, that's insane.
Like, and massive patches, 50 gigabyte patches, and just ridiculousness. You got a disk with like 500 megabytes of data on it, and then the rest is a 65 gigabyte day one patch. It's ridiculous, mostly because eventually those networks are going to go down. And now, if you bought a physical game, did you really buy a physical game? How are you going to update it? 10, 15 years hence, what's going to happen there? No one's really answered that question. It's affecting physical media too, which really, lifts my ass off the can.
Yeah, no, it used to be that when you bought a physical copy, you could trust that this was complete. Like, for instance, when I bought the Mortal Kombat game for the PlayStation 3, I waited until the complete edition came out because I knew, okay, this is a disc I can trust. Kind of like Steel, in the Conan movie, this you can trust because it's complete. Yeah. But before that, you can't even trust the discs, because at some point the servers aren't going to be up anymore. And then you are left with a beta version that's on the disc.
Yeah, they just, Nintendo just sunset the servers for 3DS and Wii U, right? For example, this happens all the time.
Yeah. And granted, like, some games are big enough that the fan community can keep fan servers up and running with the original rights holders looking through the eyes. But that's only going to happen with the biggest things. I mean, if you're a fan of something that isn't the biggest thing, good luck to you, because that thing is not going to hold up.
And then we got Ace 1589 2001 who sends in $20. Thank you so much. Says 3 things are required for video games to be good. 1, story. 2, gameplay. 3, sound. Graphics are meaningless. All flash and no substance. If you want to understand Vanillaware's artwork, check out the game Dragon's Crown. Yeah, no, I get that too. But I was just talking specifically to the question that we were asked. Daniel Davis sends in $2. Says, wasn't He-Man a Conan ripoff? Never got into it. Well, this is a very long, convoluted conversation, story, whatever you want to. But
yeah, we actually talked about it on one of my previous appearances. On it.
I think the shortest version we could probably throw out there is, yes, it started as a Conan ripoff to a point, but I think Star Wars changed a lot of that. And when they invoked the idea of sci-fi meets sword and sorcery, He-Man kind of became its own thing. And from there, especially the Filmation show helped give it its own voice that was a little different, or a lot different than Conan.
Yeah. And then Conan got his own cartoon in the 90s, which I loved. I loved Conan the Adventurer. It was a great show.
Yeah. The funny thing here, though, is that the reason that this is complicated is because it's a matter of timeline. Because originally it started off as generic space barbarian, kind of like Conan. So Conan was the idea, but at the same time they already had a license to decease the new gods that they never really used. So that went as much into it as well, in addition to like recycling parts of older lines and everything. But then as they were developing what was going to be He-Man, then the Conan movie was in development, and then they were like, "Oh shit, they're making a Conan movie, and they want a Conan toy line that's going to compete with ours. So we need to make sure that we get that license to do that Conan toy line," which they did. And then they basically stalled it, and they developed the toy line, and then they pulled out of the contract in the last possible moment, when it was too late for the film company to get anyone else to step in. So the Conan movie never got the toy line. And then they reused the tooling on He-Man.
I would
And
just
then
say this
He-Man
much.
came out a month later. And this was what the lawsuit was about as well, where all of this is documented there.
It's funny because this same thing happened with Warhammer and 40K.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Well,
and on that He-Man thing, they even did a discovery where they had like the emails from the head of
well, there wasn't emails then, but yeah.
Well, not email, but still, they found
Actual
written
mail.
correspondence. They found written correspondence where basically admit that, yeah, we are getting that license. We're getting it specifically to screw Conan for the benefit of He-Man. They got away with it anyway. So yeah, loads of crossover there. I mean, at Skeletor, that's also Doom.
In retrospect, though, looking at it, I do feel like there was a point where if they'd have known that the movie was going to be successful, they would have still done both toy lines. I think really, I think they would have done both toy lines just to prove a point. But I think what really killed the momentum, I do buy into the idea. I do believe that the R rating scared them away. I think that they would probably had full intentions of doing a Conan toy line until they heard it was going to be R rated. These guys got to remember at that point, it was still pretty taboo to do toys for movies, let alone try to do something with an R-rated toy line, to the point where, you know, half a decade to a decade later, when they finally did bring out Terminator and Aliens and RoboCop, I mean, it was controversial that Terminator had toys, but at least with RoboCop, they had the excuse that they did the animated series and like, oh no, these toys are of the animated series. And the Aliens thing was the same thing. They had an animated series in the works that was supposed to go along with the toys. The show never came to fruition, but the toys did hit the shelves, right? So, like, I mean, there was, because even Alien, just like a year or two before that, remember, had their toys pulled because of the fact that it was an R-rated film and parents freaked out. So, I mean, I wonder if there wasn't some reality to that there wasn't a point where they were considering doing both, regardless, but that R rating really scared them off, and they're like, no, we can't do that. I don't know. What do you guys think on that? Do you think that's possible? Because that is kind of their excuse in the court case, right?
That's the excuse. I don't buy it, because they knew that it was going to be R-rated way early. I mean, there was never a Conan script that wasn't R-rated, and it didn't scare them off before. So I think.
But I was curious how close that was to the Alien situation. That's why I was wondering.
Yeah. So I don't think that they ever intended on releasing a competing line. I mean, this internal communique, they made it very clear there that they saw two competing lines. It's going to make the trade confused as to where their focus should lie. So they got the license to maintain it and to suppress it. I don't think they ever intended on releasing it, regardless of rating. That's my reading of it.
I don't know. I still can believe it, just because, like I said, I'm sure it was like not even a year before that when they had the Alien controversy. So yeah, because they had to pull all those toys. But yeah, in the end of the day, they are the ones that won, so it doesn't matter. Brandon, the anime guy, sends in $10 and says, Andre, Tom, long time. DS9 is king, anime is king, PC gaming is S tier, X-boners and Soyoni ponies weep, PC, Nintendo, and AA or lower games are best in life. Hail all Godspeed. Well, yeah, that's one way of living.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good way of living. I think that many of the former Xbox and PlayStation fanboys need to get around to that mentality, because their loyalty to good games has to come ahead of their loyalty to a system that has no loyalty to them.
Ground fed died.
All right, there I did it. In the DCV Titan wanted me to do the wrong kid line in the Biden voice. There you go. For those who are curious why the hell I'm saying that is it's from a movie. Okay, I'm not wishing death upon Ridley Scott or anything like that. It's from Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story.
Oh, I was curious.
Yeah, you never seen that? It's hilarious. It's a parody of the Johnny Cash and all the other.
I know. I saw the poster. Yeah. It annoyed me.
Oh, it's hilarious though, because like his brother dies in the movie, and of course his dad, every time he sees him, wrong kid died. And
okay, so kind of like Peacemaker's dad.
Kind of, yeah.
Right.
But yeah, like I like Ridley Scott, all right, but I think he thinks he's Ridley Scott when he's not anymore, and
he's always up and down. I'm a big defender of Ridley Scott. He's always been up and down. He'll masterpiece turd, turd, and
here's
sometimes more than one turd. Right,
his brother was more consistent, was my point. But
yeah, and his brother was also more commercial. Tony Scott was super
absolutely
as a director.
Absolutely, and that's my point mainly when I'm saying that. It's not like I'm trying to shit all over Ridley Scott so much, but there's times where Ridley Scott thinks he's Ridley Scott and doesn't realize that he's
right. And I think he's also not. I think his big problem is he doesn't really push back against studio interference at all. He's very much a get along kind of guy, right? He's not as contentious as people think. So he's willing, if the studio has notes for Robin Hood, he's willing to abandon his entire Nottingham concept, right? Which is why that movie sucked. He does it all the time with his movies. Alien,
that was part of the problem with Prometheus, wasn't it?
Yes, Alien Covenant, dude. They got a bunch of notes. Hey, make it more like Aliens. He's like, really? Okay, whatever. So he made it more like Aliens, and it sucked. It sucked. It wasn't what he originally wanted to make anyway. It's like, why would you even do that? So,
I still think he should have stayed away from Alien, and I think the only reason he came back is because he felt like he had to put a stamp on it. It's like, that was like one of his least things that he ever did that was his own thing anyway, because it was so pre-set up before he got there.
Yeah, but he's also a guy who, if he doesn't have a good writer, he's boned, right? And
that's what I mean. Yeah.
On Prometheus, who did he get? Lindelof, that hack from Lost. Like, seriously,
another person who will take notes easily. Yeah, probably.
Yes.
So you're not wrong there. And again, that's my point. Is like his best features to me personally are the ones that he has a good.
Yeah, but it's weird because he'll do Prometheus, he'll do Alien Covenant, and then he'll bust out The Martian randomly and win a bunch of awards. And you're like,
yeah, and that's fine because it's based on a book.
What was that about?
But he had a nice map to work from there. He had a book to work from.
Yeah, bizarre.
But then you give him stuff like, is Alexander or not Alexander? What's the one that he did that big
Kingdom of Heaven?
Kingdom of Heaven. That's what I was trying to think.
Dude, the director's cut of that is awesome.
I've heard that's better because, that's the thing is he gets a little too. My issue with him is how many director's cuts he has, but at least I'll give him the credit that he at least puts all versions out there. He doesn't say, no, you can't have this version anymore. Kind of.
That's where I get the impression he's too amenable to studio meddling. Like, he doesn't put up enough of a fight. He's like, okay, fine, whatever. I work for the studio. And then a turd version comes out, like the theatrical version of Kingdom of Heaven was dreck.
That's the Tom Rothman cut of it, to be clear.
Yes.
I mean, that was Tom Rothman when he was at his worst at Fox, and the Kingdom of Heaven is one of those. So for your Ridley Scott movies, the problem isn't actually the theatrical movies. I'll say that one more time. Razorfist, you are exactly right. He doesn't put up enough of a fight because the problem with his movies is indeed the theatrical cuts that never should have been made. It's the director's cut that should have come out in the first place.
Yeah, very often. It happened with Blade Runner for certain, right? And it happened with Legend, right? All the drama with the soundtrack and everything. Like, they just released that in 4K recently, and it's amazing. They put both cuts in there. It happens with a ton of his movies because he's a very workmanlike director. There's an element like that mercenary spirit that I kind of admire, but at the same time, man, you got to stand up for your art. And I think that's 90% of the problem.
Well, and I will give him some credit because I just recently watched Memory. It's a documentary about Alien. It's a fucking horrible documentary. But the best part about the documentary is when they talk a lot of, because you got Dan O'Bannon's wife on there, Because otherwise, it's mostly just a bunch of critics talking about the movie in hindsight and shit. It's like, who cares about that shit? I want to hear about the making of the film.
Yeah.
So when they get into Dan O'Bannon, when he had first the vision for the movie, because it stemmed off of, you know, him working on the one with John Carpenter, Dark Star, and he wanted to do a more serious version of that. And he felt like John kind of took his vision and ran with it his way. So he wanted to do his own version. And what he had set up was pretty much what the movie ended up being. But the studio was so against everything Dan wanted to do that it was Ridley who came on board and really fought for all the original visions that Dan had, like having Giger on board, for instance.
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff, because the studio was totally against him. They're like, fuck that. We're not having that shit in this movie. We're not having like vaginas and penises all over the goddamn place. And then when Ridley Scott came on board, he's like, well, this is the Alien. He's like, this is it. And they're like, oh yeah, well, of course. It's beautiful. It's great.
Yeah.
You know, like,
yeah, he was a lot more feisty earlier in his career. I mean, he got fired from Blade Runner, right? Like they literally fired him and then hired him back to finish the movie. Like without him being the director. That happens all the time, but he just, after a certain point, I feel like he just stopped fighting. Like he just didn't care. And that's mostly what I get from his most recent stuff, is just laziness, really, and lackadaisical. Like he's just kind of going along with the studio. So
yeah, because I was actually impressed to hear that, because I didn't know those sides of the story. I mean, I knew Dan O'Bannon's vision was what ended up on the screen more than quote unquote Ridley, because basically that's what a lot of people said. Ridley Scott basically worked as a cinematographer on that movie. Otherwise, the movie was pretty much pre-done for him. And then I saw this version where O'Bannon's wife's talking about the struggle that he went through, and it's shit. And she basically is a champion for Ridley, saying, yeah, he came in and saw what Dan wanted to do, and he's like, well, yeah, that's the movie, right? He knew exactly what he wanted to do, and he just took that and put it on the screen, basically. Very little of his there was only a couple things that Ridley actually brought to the table. It sounded like that was his original ideas, but other than that, it was all stuff Dan had already done and that the studio had rejected, basically, because they're like, no, we're not doing that. No, that guy's weird. No, it looks ugly. They wanted it to be like, you know, a Spielberg movie, basically. So yeah. But anyway, moving on, Dylan Killen sends in $2 and says, so Midnight's Edge, no Sabaton? Well, we bring up Sabaton from time to time.
Yeah, so, well, or rather, you guys bring up Sabaton from time to time. Swedish power metal, and one of the greatest power metal bands ever created. Some of their songs are really cool, especially those that really go into the Viking history and stuff like that. But as for me, I'm not too into power metal myself. I had like a period in my late teens when I liked Rhapsody a great deal, and I saw them in concert, and that was freaking amazing.
Yeah.
But I kind of like gotten mostly over power metal, so I don't really follow Sabaton too much myself. My genre of choice remains industrial. Even if I'm Norwegian, I'm not true cult Norwegian, and I'm not even a poser because I never claimed to be. How about you, Razorfist? I mean, I'm a big fan of your metal videos, and as I said behind the scenes, like I'm working on a big retrospective that's going to involve a lot of Norwegian black metal. Yeah. And I'm going to rely on Razorfist to fact check me on some of those things in there. So
not a terrible, yeah. I mean, given what you're going to be talking about, I definitely have a lot of foreknowledge on that. I mean, look, my favorite band's Bathory from Sweden.
Yeah.
They kind of got the whole ball rolling on the entire genre, along with Venom. So yeah, I love Sabaton. Actually, they just hooked back up with their original guitarist. I think he just came back into the band.
Cool. So. Yeah, and you're probably not going to like it, but Varg is writing new music.
Oh, Varg, yeah.
Yeah, that's
well, any day out of prison.
Well, yeah, he's been out of prison for like what? How long now? He's been 15 years out of prison.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, but like he's written a bunch of books lately, and including one on his time as in doing music, and it got him inspired, and he's writing music again.
Yeah, it was funny because I remember he gave interviews from prison saying, "Oh, heavy metal music is, because he's racist as all get out. He's like, heavy metal music is black
In
people
every sense of
music."
the word, yes.
Yeah, something like that. Like, only keyboards are real. I remember that phrase. I'll never forget it. It was hilarious. Only keyboards are pure European instruments. Yeah, manufactured in Japan, you clown. Shut up. But anyway, so he briefly went through an electronic only period. And then he gets out of prison and he immediately makes a bunch of black metal albums. It's like, you idiot. I'm sure it had nothing to do with the fact that the prison would only allow him to use keyboards. I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure that had nothing to do with it.
Right.
Nothing at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And all I have to say to that is
I like turtles.
yeah, I'm not into the death metal stuff. I mean, I like some metal, but
Yeah,
Said
well,
it went a little Hank Hill on us there. I'm not
I'll
into
say-
the
I'll
death
say-
metal, I tell you
I
what.
don't do the death metal, I tell you what.
yeah. And
It's a
to
little
be clear,
crazy
we're
for me.
talking black metal here. Death metal, that's something
Oh, that's
else.
true.
Yeah.
I can't even tell the difference.
Well, actually, Razorfist, you have a fantastic way of separating the two. I mean, what's like the really quick way to separate death
If the
metal
vocalist,
from black metal?
yeah, if the vocalist sounds like a clogged toilet or the Cookie Monster, it's death metal. If the singer sounds like a ring wraith from Lord of the Rings, it's black metal. Yeah.
Gotcha. Because
That's
the
the
black
difference.
metal is more like
Yeah.
death
Yes.
metal. Cookie.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
That is entirely correct. That's the difference between the two.
Got ya. Okay, so the Cobra Commander versus Cookie Monster. Gotcha.
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. And Claw versus, yes, absolutely.
There you go. All right. I'll get you next time, Gadget.
There you are. Yeah, you could join Cannibal Corpse tomorrow.
Yeah. I will eat your soul.
You would be a really good death metal singer, actually, Tom.
Oh, I can do a lot of weird voices. You know that. Lately, they got me doing Nicolas Cage constantly. Mercenary X21 says with $2, CIA admitted on camera they set up Jones with Hook. Jones. What's
Alex
this one?
Joe, they're talking
Alex
about
Jones. Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
probably
Gotcha.
Alex, yeah.
Gotcha. Oh, yeah. Kitty Bear sends in €6. And Andre, if Viking is reincarnated, do they become Bjorn again? Oh,
Yes, they become Bjorn again. Yeah.
that was good. Yami Bliss.
If Bjork winds up opening an OnlyFans, is she doing Bjorn? Is that
Yes.
We're retarded, ladies and gentlemen.
That was good. Yami Bliss sends in 5. It says, have you guys been keeping up with X-Men 97? Today's episode was incredible. They need to get Bo DeMayo back in the writer team. Any update? No, I have not yet, but this is funny because here we are on what? Week 4. Not a single thing has come out about DeMayo. Other than he showed his little pecker on OnlyFans or whatever.
Yeah. Which means that we soon need to do an update video on how this guy, who seemingly did fairly well on X-Men 97, needs justice. And I haven't seen the X-Men 97 myself for the simple reason I haven't seen X-Men the animated series, apart from like literally 2 episodes, or actually 1 episode. And that's not enough that I can really appreciate the revival series. I did hear, though, that the most recent episode even has a reference to the Sega Mega Drive game. I'm really curious as to what that may be. I can only imagine it must be some kind of thing where you have to reboot something and it's not at all clear. And if that really is the case, then I'm like, okay, Demayo, you're cool with me. If you're going to include references to Sega in the X-Men series, we're good.
Yeah.
I hope it can stick the landing. I really hope it can stick the landing, and I look forward to doing his honor restored video, at least in the eyes of the fans. Now, Marvel, why do you do this?
I think we know why. I think we can at least speculate that going along with what we know about his history with Witcher, I think that, yeah, he was more than willing to go along within the public eye. Yeah, I'm a black gay man who was adopted by Asian parents, and I brought that experience to X-Men, but he didn't mean literally. they did.
Yeah,
And I think that's where
he didn't.
I think
make
that's where
it
the
big
lines.
enough.
I think you're right, Andre. That's what it seems like to me at this point. Here we are, 4 weeks deep into this. We haven't heard one accusation. Nothing big has come out. All we've had is a few lousy pictures that aren't anything worse than any other Disney star has done in the past. I'll give him that much, right? Frankly, I'm failing to see the smoking gun here as to why they needed to fire this guy. And I think the community should stand up and say, wait a minute here. How is it you're so supportive of all this woke shit? You just fired a black gay dude. For what reason? Because they knew about this OnlyFans. It's not like it's brand new. This looks like to me, because the other side of this is, what do we keep hearing? He was difficult to work with. What is that usually translation for, Andre?
Ask for more money.
Woke enough.
No, yeah, I was going to say actually what Andre said, but ask for more money could be, but no, I think Andre's more correct in this instance, at least in my opinion. And that is that he wasn't going to toe the line with the woke shit. He's like, well, no, that's not how this shit works. He was a fan of X-Men, right? He knew the show. He had a take for this, and clearly they went with it, but it wasn't gay enough for them, probably. I'm curious if that's the case, because, it sounds like that's whenever there's creative differences is when somebody wants to stick with the source material and they won't allow them to change it. At least that's what seems to be the ongoing trend.
Yeah.
Same thing with Witcher. So, and he was the guy who left with around the same time, or left with Cavill. So, Mercenary X21 sends in $2, says this Stallone thing sounds a lot like a CIA setup. I know it could be, but I think it's just simply this casting agencies trying to save face from fucking up, more or less. Unless somebody's got a smoking gun somewhere. If there's some on-set video of Sly acting completely like, a jerk, then maybe. But I don't believe it. And you would think there would be. So, then again, they do probably confiscate phones and shit, but not from all the background people. I mean, the production people. Mercenary X21 says, Celebrity Ben, their kid, or it's Mulak sacrifice. Did I say that right? Then we got Action Count says, recently The Rock said he would not vote for Biden. The online mob has been getting nuts over since. Will he cave to them like anyone else cares?
Yeah, only if he wants to destroy his image in the eyes of half his fans, even more than he already did.
No,
did he give more? Go ahead.
It's just a cynical move from him. Everything The Rock does is super, super, super calculated. Think about where he is now. He doesn't have to rely on Hollywood so much anymore because he's now on the board of TKO. He has a reliable income from that, and he might be making more money. Who knows? But his new audience is what? UFC and wrestling guys. They're not that woke, right? So playing to the Biden crowd doesn't really get him anywhere, really, in a contentious election cycle, right? That's only going to hurt him in the public eye. I think it's just a calculated move to try and pull back, especially after that open air abortion that happened in Hawaii with Oprah. That did not sit well with anyone. The Rock really, really bungled that along with Oprah. It just looked terrible. So he's a little bit on the image rehabilitation tour, and also he's working for someone whose primary audience doesn't really respond to that kind of cynical, silly wokeness that he's been doing for the last several years.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head there.
Yeah, the only other side of this I could see is, besides the fact that The Rock has never been this huge movie star that he and a lot of other people in Hollywood like to make him out to be. I wonder if a lot of his career taking this trajectory that it has movie-wise. Look at it this way. His highest grossing film that isn't an ensemble piece like Jumanji or one of the Fast and Furious films is Black Adam, and that's considered a failure.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, I wonder if part of this, and I wonder what the context around this was. I didn't hear the whole interview or what he said about it. I just saw the main headline. I'm just curious if maybe he's feeling this way because he also sees the way society has gone, and Biden is kind of like the poster child for this, kind of like Trump was the poster child for, the other side for years.
Right.
I mean, maybe he's looking at it as my career's been destroyed because of this woke nonsense bullshit. I had to go back to fucking wrestling, right? Like, I get it. He's making a lot of money and he's doing, very well where he's at. But I mean, in a way, his ambitions always were to use wrestling as a launch pad into being the next Schwarzenegger Stallone type guy. And he could have been at one point. Yeah. But now it's almost like his type of movie is toxic, too toxic. Right. So, yeah.
Well, now he's in executive mode, right? Because he's on the board and he's running, like co-running WWE, and he's on the board of TKO and stuff. So that's the position they really want to put him in. They want him to be the front man, and maybe that's part of it too. TKO, I think, wanted him to be the outward face to rehabilitate the image of WWE after Vince McMahon got caught with everyone's pants down. Right.
It was a win-win for both parties. I see what you're saying.
Yes. So I have a feeling that might weigh into it. Is Rock is trying to take the rough edges off some of his less popular elements in the public eye to help the company as much as himself.
You could be right on that. I can see that as a scenario too. So interesting overall, but it is kind of funny that he'd be willing to face the barrage of flack, especially after the whole Vince McMahon thing. Speaking of.
Oh, somebody Cosmic Vader. This has the ring of truth to me. Says in the chat, The Rock got $30 million in the deal with TKO. So he's a board member. So yeah, I could see that. I mean, he got paid very well in Hollywood. He did not make that kind of money.
Well, and he was looking, and here's the thing: is just before this, we got to remember what his moves were. Then he was trying to move and shake his way into DC and be the head of DC. Yeah. Before they chose James Gunn instead, like that, he was trying to take that role.
Yeah, you can't abuse steroids forever. I mean, you got to transition to a desk job eventually.
There is that. So I see there was some ambition there in that direction for sure. Yeah. But we got that one already. Snail Messiah sends in 20 Danish krone and says, I work at Copenhagen. This year I had to write my PN. What's your PN? Anybody know?
I'm not sure. So Snail Messiah, feel free to add that in the live chat.
Add some context, please.
Yeah. I PIN number.
Oh, PIN number. Okay. Gotcha. Mercenary X21 sends in 2 and says Hollywood, like Disney, won't survive to the end of the year. Oh, they'll survive, but what is gonna come out the other end? I don't know. They've got a lot of changing to do, and we've been talking all day about just some of the problems that they've put themselves into, whether it's the streaming shit, the political nonsense. And this is already adding to the trouble they had before that. Like I said before, going into this, they already had the McDonaldization problem. Hollywood already become a reversal of itself, right? There used to be a time when all they would do is mostly original films, and then a small portion of them were, remakes and sequels. And they were usually embarrassed by sequels, but they knew they could at least count on that movie generally making half as much or more than the last movie did. Now it's the complete opposite. Now all they do is remakes, sequels, reboots, all that kind of shit. So they don't know how to do anything original anymore.
Yeah.
They need to get back to the previous super chat, pronouns, probably.
What do you think of this?
Pronouns. Oh,
right.
Anyway, you were saying,
what do you think of this wave? Because I think the two big things that Hollywood seems to like they're going to fall back on with superhero movies basically being DOA is they're going to have to move on to another genre. We were talking about video games. That is obviously one of the things they want to push, video game movies. What about this wave of Westerns? Because there's been a whole bunch of them. Martin Scorsese's going to make one. Ridley Scott's going to make one. Like all the big actors. All the big actors are working on them. Christian Bale's going to star in one soon. I mean, these are big names now working on these. I think Spielberg even. Like everybody's making a Western now. Do you think
I'm game for them? I don't know if people are. I mean, they might be just riding the Yellowstone train.
Possibly. But it does look like we got a big wave of Westerns coming this year and next year, if not even longer after that. We'll see. But of course, the big Kevin Costner Horizon.
That's what I was saying. Yeah,
he basically hedged his own career against.
I know, right?
That's coming up.
kept up with that too, but I had a guy behind the scenes feed me info on that, and it's In fact, I thought there was a super chat in here that mentioned Yellowstone. We could probably here it is. Vengeful Dragon Garlic Bread Expert says, "What's happening with Yellowstone and Kevin?" Last I knew, they were at a stalemate, and Kevin was basically saying they're going to have to take him to court. But I guess they're supposed to be shooting or shot the last part of the
No, the
season.
very last thing I heard was earlier in the week, I think, or within the last week, that if they could find a way to write him in or something, he'd be willing to come back for another season or something like that. That's the very last thing I heard.
Weird, because before that he was all. Because here's the thing, is they can't kill him unless he signs off on it.
Right.
That's in his contract. But you're 100% right, Razor. When he made this decision, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Because you went and because people got to remember, this guy's career had been on the skids for the last better part of a decade or more.
Yep.
And, he hadn't really been allowed to have that much to play with outside of, like, Open Range was like the only movie he had directed in the last, a couple of years that they had given him any money to really do since The Postman and all that business that he went through with all the money he didn't direct The Postman, but I don't think. What was I remember the one he directed right around that time that was expensive as hell.
Waterworld.
Wow. No, Waterworld he didn't direct either.
I know.
Yeah, he did have those string of movies there that was just like,
oh my god,
well, and all that shit. But either way, so he was kind of ostracized and was delegated to like pocket.
Yeah, I think this is just personal for him. You're correct. He was on the skids, and that I think is why he's doing it, because this is the movie he wanted to make before Dances with Wolves, before anything. He's wanted to make Horizon since he got to Hollywood. This is a movie he has had in the back of his mind.
Okay, he did direct The Postman. I was right. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So I think that's why it's like, oh, okay, look, I'm old. This is probably my last chance. It's pinch a turd or get off the pot time. So he is pinching that turd. Hopefully it's not a turd though. The trailer looks great. So
I think it was kind of an FU to Taylor Sheridan though. That's the way I look at it. And to me, he's kind of spitting in the face of the guy who brought his ass back from the skids. Because
let's keep this in perspective.
Oh, I am.
Kevin Costner, failures or not, has directed much better westerns than Taylor.
That's fair.
Let's be real here.
Here's my point, though. Does he get this directing gig if he hadn't been on Yellowstone? No.
Oh, no.
We all know correct. That's my point. Is he took and spat in the face of the guy who got him this opportunity when all he had to do was say to Warner Brothers,
right,
look, can we hold this off until X date? And then it would have probably been fine because it probably could have built off the momentum of the final season of Yellowstone anyway. Because look, Paramount, and this is what I had heard in the background real quick, I'll keep it brief, is basically they weren't so worried about the show ending because once the show ends, they knew they could pick it up with a spin-off and then finally get it on Paramount Plus. Because the thing that pissed them off more than anything about this whole scenario was that they went and made this deal for the show before they had Paramount Plus or CBS All Access, and Peacock has the streaming rights in the US for Yellowstone proper. They've got all the spin-off shows, but they don't have the rights to this, to Yellowstone until it's like X amount of years past. So they get the old seasons, but they don't get the new seasons. Yeah. So Peacock gets the new season. So it's a big fucking mess. And everybody's like, well, I want to watch Yellowstone, but it's not on Paramount Plus. So they've been trying to find it elsewhere. Now that it's been dropping on CBS, it's been huge ratings for them. It's one of the biggest shows they've had in a while. But then you also got behind the scenes besides the Kevin stuff now. You got all sorts of shit with everybody behind the scenes because guess what happens when money and popularity comes along? Everybody starts wanting their piece of the pie. So yeah, so I don't know. Kevin might have got out while the Get was good at the same time, but to me, he could have just waited a little longer, it felt like, but I don't know.
The trailer looks good. I hope it's good. And there's a big wave of Westerns now. So he's probably also looking at that like, hey, it looks like Western time. So
you could be right on the Western thing.
Yeah. If I'm going to make which I got a Western coming out. I got a comic coming out that did really well last year. So that's going to be coming out in like the next month or something. But yeah, so he's probably looking at that like market forces a little bit. Okay, if I'm going to make money back on this, now is probably the time after the success of Yellowstone.
Well, and this is the thing I was going to bring up earlier, but we got past it, is like they got a false sense of security with the Marvel movies. Yeah. Basically, the Marvel movies really spoiled us when it came to comic book movies, because I was bringing that up and pointing that out. Is like, you got to remember, most of the comic book movies we got up until the MCU started were shit. People forget that.
Yeah,
90% of them were garbage.
Yeah,
Because they hardly even
Ghost Rider and
yeah, exactly. Just a bunch of shit for the most part. Green Lantern and fucking, I mean, even the better of the worst ones were like even nothing to write home about.
The theatrical
Blade
cut of
was probably
Daredevil.
one of the better.
For crying
Yeah,
out loud. Oof.
right. Like Blade was probably one of the highlights. Like, what else can we think of as highlights? Like you brought it up.
X-Men and outside of X-Men, Spider-Man, and Blade.
Yeah. Like up until the MCU, they were all shit for the most part. Hit or miss, mostly miss. So like we got spoiled at that point. So I felt like that gave the studios this false sense of, okay, now we've got this, sure thing. Because that's what the studios are always looking for, is a sure thing.
Yeah.
And they never know what the next trend is going to be. And I don't know if video games are going to be it. I think some things are going to translate well to screen, but I don't think others will. Like you get your Five Nights at Freddy's, your Mario Brothers, your Sonics. Those things can translate. You can always kind of revive like Resident Evil or something like that. But some of these other games, I just don't know, because I think part of the appeal is in the gameplay.
Yeah, I do not think years ago they were working on a Heavy Rain movie. And it was like, why? It's already a movie. What are you doing? And you're going to get to that point where you're making movies now that are already kind of movies. The video games were basically a movie to begin with. There's a lot of games that fit that description today too. So it's kind of the perfect storm. You're going to start hitting those games pretty soon. And that's not going to translate so well, because you're just going to wind up with a crappier version, a crappier, less interactive version of what you already have. That's not a recipe for success at all. Ask Assassin's Creed.
So. Yeah, somebody just brought that up in the chat. Exactly. Yeah, Assassin's Creed. Yeah. And sure, there was some great comic book movies in between there. Hellboy, somebody brought up. Punisher, I guess take your pick on that one, which one you like. But like that's just it. They meandered through superhero movies until the MCU. That was when they finally figured out the formula.
And ironically, it was a Punisher movie that kind of kicked that off. Even pre Iron Man, the first Marvel Studios production was Punisher Warzone. It was that one.
That is true. I mean, they had other Marvel films before that, but yeah.
Oh no, I mean that wave. That was the first Marvel production, right? The Marvel movie studio. Because prior to that, they had to partner with someone. They had, whatever. So
yeah. And then Pilgrim
Media says the first one that Kevin Feige actually had any kind of input over. The ending was a Kevin Feige note.
Yeah.
Pilgrim Media sends in 2 and says they thought COVID shutdowns would save them. I don't know how.
Yeah, well, that didn't quite work out, did it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got that one already. Super Mastermind sends in 5 and says Toys R Us HQ is still in New Jersey. Should one need a building complex cheap, seek them out. They still use it, but don't use much of any of it. Towns downsized, I think you mean. Yeah,
no. I think he means town sized. It's the size
the building is town sized.
Oh, it's town sized building.
Yeah, and they don't have a town sized mass of employees. So it's going to be a shit ton of empty offices in that.
Well, if that's the case, Hollywood should buy it for a studio. Shit. And then you got Justin who said, pronounce Lillehammer incorrectly. I watched.
Yes, because this is in reference to me saying the series Lillehammer, which has similarities to Tulsa King in that it features another mobster, one from The Sopranos, who goes into witness protection in Norway. Now, the funny thing here is if you look at the name of the series, it's written Lilly Hammer. That is not the actual name of the city.
Yeah.
It's the name of the series. Now, because Norwegians all know this. When we say the name of the series, we say the name of the series, Lillehammer, and not the name of the city, which is Lillehammer. And the origin is actually way back in 1988 when Lillehammer was awarded the Olympics. But it was the chairman of the Olympic Committee, Juan Antonio Samaranch, and he couldn't pronounce Lillehammer. So he was the one who said in his Spanish accent, the decision is Lillehammer, as if it was a person, Lillehammer. And after that, the term Lillehammer kind of became like a a meme in Norway if you want, and that's the name of the series. It's not the name of the city. It's
Funny,
the name of the
we were
meme.
talking about Norwegian black metal. Lillehammer is known for being where one of the members of Emperor stabbed and murdered a guy.
Correct. That would be
I think that was during the Olympics, wasn't it, in the 90s?
I don't know that it was. I don't think. It wasn't during the Olympics, but it was in
Thereabouts.
that general time frame. Yeah,
yeah.
That was. That's also covered in the movie Lords of Chaos. Yeah, that was a fun guy. Gangster rappers, they kept it real. Norwegian black metalers, they kept it true. It's pretty much the same thing.
I forget who said it. If it was Jack Black or some other metalhead guy, called Norway the Compton of black metal.
Well, it's true. It's true.
It is.
I mean, they killed each other and everything, and and they're proper. I'm not going to say that they're homophobic when they actually, there's no fear. It's just pure hatred and. A little bit of Rossicism and nationalism and a bit of all kinds of horrible stuff mixed in with some pretty compelling music. So, yeah. That's keeping it true in every sense. So, but anyway, that's the story of the pronunciation between Lillehammer. The series is named after the meme and not the city. Moving on from there, Mercenary X21 says Trump and Gamergate equals their 9/11. Want us bubbled pop?
I don't know what that means.
Kind of. You're not wrong. Pilgrim Media says for $2, Lando Calrissian has spoken. Do the scene. I'll leave someone else to do that. Kitty Bear has been a member for 29 months. We're glad to have you. New membership stream about to be announced now, and I'm finally getting over the cold here. And Thomas over his as well. One Pants View says for $4.99, we need a monthly Python-esque troop to point out absurdities again. Save the 70s from Nixon. Yeah, that's true. That is needed. We do need another. I had to cough there. Sorry. We do need another. What's the term I'm looking for? A jester.
Like an irreverent.
Yeah.
Kind
we need
of,
a jester that can get
you
away.
need someone to take the piss.
Well, and I think that's what a lot of. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Razor.
And late night comedians are not going to do it, right? Because they're basically state media at this point. But the problem, of course, with that proposal is anyone who did that would be on a domestic terror watch list by that afternoon. It's not going to happen.
Well, and that goes along with Andre, something you brought up before, like bring somebody from, the 40 years prior to one point compared to the other. Like in modern days, somebody 20 years ago wouldn't have so much trouble with like the technology and things like that compared to somebody from the 80s going to like say 2001 or whatever it was, from somebody from 2001 coming to now. But the funny thing would be like the countdown to when they were canceled and all the other stuff they'd have to deal with in comparison. Like their clothes, their stuff like that would be fine, but like,
I know what you mean. Like, it's what I've said before to illustrate the state of cultural stagnation we are in right now. That we are now 24 years away from the year 2000, right? So, and that is the same distance in time as from the year 2000 and 1976. Now, if a person from 1976 had time traveled forward to the year 2000, I mean, he might as well be in a different planet. Everything is different. Social norms, not that different, but a bit different. Technology is different. Fashion is different. Movies are different. Music is different. Everything is complete different. But if you take a person from the year 2000 and transport to the year 2024, fashion is the same. Music is largely the same, apart from the fact that we don't have bands anymore.
It's so true. It's like, hey,
it's all the same. The only thing that's different, I mean, basically, like, and the other way around too. If a person from 1976 just stepped out of the time machine and his 1976 attire, haircut, stuff like that, everyone would see that, boy, this guy's going to like a retro party or something. The person from the year 2000 stepping out today wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Same haircut, same clothes. And he wouldn't even be able to tell before he saw a smartphone, because that's the only difference. It's a smartphone. That's a technological thing. And beyond that, the differences are social. You're not allowed to have the American flag displayed anymore. You're supposed to be ashamed. And you basically, walking in a concentration camp, that's going to be the big news thing. But in terms of culture, there's nothing new. I mean, in terms of technology stuff, you can learn everything in like 2 hours. 2 hours on Wikipedia and learning to use a smartphone. And he's good to go into society. He's going to struggle with the new social rules and what he is not allowed.
That's what I said. It'll be a countdown to getting canceled. Yeah,
especially if he's a white person, and he's going to have to learn that all that stuff that you've been told that others have suffered. Well, that's you now. So, welcome. That's. But into everything else, because of cultural stagnation, there's no transition. He'd get used to it in hours, because everything is standing still. Not saying it's a good thing, but that's how it is. And I think Razorfist was largely in agreement with that.
Oh yeah, I've pointed this out many times, but it's like 2000. It's like, gosh, I wonder what I should do. Should I listen to some pop rap and wear my ambiguously baggy-ish but not quite jeans? And right, like there hasn't been any radical. You see little minor adjustments. That's really what's happened. We don't have Zeitgeist anymore. We just have minor adjustments to existing things, right? Like even smartphones are a minor actually a somewhat major adjustment to what we already had in 2000, which every high school kid was running around with smaller cell phones, right? Yeah. And then we went to the flip phones shortly after that, and everyone had a.
We were starting to get navigation though on that point. Like I remember. You could check like your Facebook messages and stuff.
Well, you
like
already
that.
had Blackberries and
Blackberries and such. Yeah, so we were getting
around
there.
2004. So basically, like in those 5 years, that's where the last time. And other than that, you don't even have that. So if the time traveler comes from the year 2005 instead of the year 2000, he doesn't even have the smartphone transition. Everything is at a complete and total standstill. Apart from the regression.
Yeah.
I mean, not even video games are that much better from 2005 until...
well, and that goes back to another reason why...
3 came out in
there are games... Yeah, absolutely. There are games today that still have held up so well from the PS2 era. Like, literally, go play Silent Hill 3. Go look at a screenshot of that game. That's from 2003, gang. There are games that come out today that don't look that good.
No, because you're 100% right, Andre, because every generation that comes in new has their own new thing, but they also have an era where you have the group that's coming to middle age. They also have a revival of their era, right? Like in the 80s, you had a revival of the 1950s nostalgia, right? In the 1990s, it was the 60s nostalgia, right? And then in the early aughts, it was the 70s and then the 80s again. It came back around. But now here we are stuck in that stagnation because of what you just said. Because from that point on, we didn't have another side to that going on simultaneously. Like in the 80s, you had, that other side of the pop culture, right? So,
yeah, you can't have nostalgia for anything beyond the 90s. Because beyond the 90s, we're still there.
Because we should actually be in the nostalgia of the aughts right now, and the nostalgia of the aughts is just
there's nothing to be nostalgic about.
Exactly,
we're still there.
Yeah, and even in the 90s nostalgia, you don't see a whole lot of nostalgia for 1998. You know what I mean? It's mostly early 90s, whatever, right? It's very much in that vein. So I think the big factor that I pointed to, kind of the demarcation line, if you will, is broadband internet. It's like from that moment on, whether it was because of file sharing and record companies dying so music just stops in place, or whatever happened with pirating movies, or whatever the reason was, we no longer have a monoculture after that point. Everything is like different grades.
It pretty much ended in the
yes
in the early,
and no. I would say
these
that
are the
we
last
have,
two things I would say culturally impacted us. Sorry, go ahead, Andre.
Yeah.
I would say actually what we have is even more extreme, because before you had the monoculture, by which I mean like you had the water cooler chat where you had like some big things that everyone knew, everyone was talking about. You
Yes.
still have that, but it's more extreme. It is much more extreme now. Like, for instance, you remember the animated series Phantom 2040, right? How
Right.
in that series there were no celebrities, there were no stars, there was no music, apart from this one female pop singer that everyone was a fan of, who had like these midgets and stuff that basically brainwashed the people as perfect corporate product.
Right.
That was the monoculture. Taylor Swift. That's where we are right now. We do
Yeah,
have
but even
the cyberpunk monoculture, but it's
yeah,
only like 3 different artists. It's Taylor Swift and it's like 2-3 others, and that's
yeah,
it.
but at
All
the
artists
same
that have been
time,
around for
There's
10,
no
20 years
monoculture.
too. Yeah.
yeah, but at the same time, they're nowhere near as successful. Like, I don't think in objective terms, like Katy Perry and now apparently Drake broke Michael Jackson's record for #1 singles. And it's
No.
like, is that a fair breaking of the record? That happened in 2010 with units sold in the thousands. Michael Jackson broke that record with units sold in the millions and the tens of millions.
Well, and they even
Is
still
that a
say that there
fair?
was probably more than that because they
Yeah.
couldn't even keep track of it back then like they do now.
Yes,
But I'm not
and
even comparing that. I'm not talking about
Yeah.
in sales. I'm just talking about in terms
Right,
of
right,
like
right.
monoculture. You like the grab that Taylor Swift has is
Yeah.
comparable to the biggest stars ever. And the scary thing is that with monoculture in the past, you would have several Taylor Swifts all at the same time.
yeah,
You
absolutely.
would have Nirvana and
Oh
no,
man,
sorry, you would have
yeah,
Metallica and Nirvana and Oasis back
Yeah.
to back to back, and the Prodigy, and you'd have all of them in a 4-year time span, plus a whole bunch of others.
Well, in
Now we've
comparison,
had basically Taylor Swift for that whole thing without the Nirvana,
yeah,
without
the equivalent
Metallica.
of Taylor Swift in say the 80s would you had Madonna, Cyndi Lauper, Pat Benatar, Joan
Exactly.
Jett. I mean, you had a number of women that were just as successful, I would argue, or almost as successful. But Taylor Swift seems so much more successful now.
It's a product.
Because-
I mean,
Yeah.
and a complete. It's the difference between an organic success and an astroturfed one, and nothing illustrates this more than what was it, like 5 or 6 years ago? Taylor Swift played Rock in Rio in Vegas. They did the Vegas version of Rock in Rio, so they should have had larger crowds. They should have had, right? They had the entire hype machine and all the record companies shilling Taylor Swift. She was outdrawn by Iron Maiden.
Right. Well, here's the thing. I would actually compare Taylor Swift more to like a Tiffany or what's her face, the other one that was out that time, the Flash in the Pans. Like these teeny bopper mall fucking singers. Because that's what to me the equivalent was. They got famous because they would, go tour the malls and do concerts in the middle of the mall. So the kids would all go, boppy for them or whatever. And it's like now she became like this huge star somehow. It's like, why is everybody following everything?
For anyone else? That's
what I'm saying. Like Billie Eilish is the only other closest thing we have, and she is fucking depressing. So like,
because there's no more MTV. There's none of the venues.
Well, there hasn't been that forever.
Remain.
Yeah.
It's just TikTok, and TikTok that means
JoJo Siwa is who we got now. Like what the fuck?
That can do songs that have groove, but which technically are less advanced than anything we've had since the 1940s, because they're not advanced at all. It's just a groove. That's what like most songs and albums are today. Because there's no albums anymore, there's no discoverability. Like, so, yeah, the people with the talent that they would have been huge in the 90s, there's no path for them because they have to be social media influencers first and artists second. You can't do that.
Well,
and that's why
Well,
you get the Taylor Swifts because there's no one else to divide the attention.
who's the big one now? JoJo Siwa or whatever the fuck her name is. And who is
The
she?
hell is
She's
that?
fucking YouTube star, basically. And she's got this video that dropped last week that's got over like 20, almost close to 20 million views or more or whatever. But I haven't checked back in. It popped up on the feed. It's her making out with a chick through most of the song. Right. And she's the one that all the kids are talking about now because she was like this teeny bopper star. I don't know if she was ever on a TV show.
Yeah, it's the Miley Cyrus formula all over again.
Yeah.
Basically. And it's how many, and I asked this about every pop star. YouTube tallies any video from any account. Like do views on YouTube with when I'm saying this, I mean like for big pop stars that have a marketing department that can pay for all the bots they possibly could want. Look, years ago, we were talking about WWE earlier. They were busted paying for like 70% of their engagement on social media, which you can see from space if you pay attention to WWE. Every time anything happened during WWE Raw in like 2013, 14, whatever, would always be top page trending on Twitter, like within seconds, without any organic reaction or anything. So do record companies do this with YouTube videos? Absolutely. There's no question in my mind they do this in order to be able to say 20 million views in 2 days or whatever. No question in my mind. That's absolutely what happens.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, again, I agree with you. How can we gauge these quote unquote new artists with these old artists? Because like it's not new for singles, right? Like singles were always part of the game back in the 50s and 60s and 70s and shit like that. That's nothing new. But nowadays you have like when a Kanye West puts out a few songs or Taylor Swift or whoever, they dominate the top 10. And then you see the rest of the songs being like, or the rest of the albums that are being sold being like Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, and Michael Jackson, Thriller, Eagles' Greatest Hits. You know, the top albums always, because kids go back to the old stuff, except for whatever the flavor of the day is. And then at that moment, then it just fades away quick. But yet at that moment, they broke some record because they had that many top 10 hits or hits in the top 10 at once. It's like, that ain't shit compared to what the Beatles used to do, though. Like, that's what I'm saying is like, I mean, you like or hate the Beatles, it doesn't matter. Like, they could have 4 or 5 songs in the top 10 at once, and it was because they were that fucking popular all over, and people were buying that many record albums, and they were being played that many times on the radio. The way they're figuring it now is just by, the amount of MP3 sold. It's like, to me, I don't know if that really works. Or like you said, they add in, I know some of them gauge like YouTube video views and stuff like that. Yeah. It's like, to me, that's not the same as it used to be. That's not popular radio. That's not like MTV it used to be, to where things would get put in the rotation by popularity and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. The sketchiest part is when they actually get like contracts based on that engagement, because the engagement is fake. Like like I was mentioning WWE scamming networks, it's like they use the social media interaction numbers to get those record-breaking TV deals and stuff. And as Fox discovered, because Fox wound up dropping SmackDown, USA wound up not renewing their contract with Raw because the ratings sucked. They were terrible. They were breaking all-time records for lowest ratings. The records they were breaking for lowest viewership dated back to 1996, 1.5s and 1.7s. They're still drawing those kind of numbers. And it's like you can only AstroTurf so far, basically. If they're doing the same thing in the music industry, it explains a lot.
Yeah. And I mean, we got some people in chat are saying we're basically old men yelling at clouds, and that could be a fair assessment. But at the same time, I mean, even Crazy Cat, who's one of them, says, and back in the day, you could bitch about how NSYNC or New Kids on the Block sucked, or you could just listen to music you actually like. That's true. But the difference is back in the day, you didn't have Lynyrd Skynyrd and Queen and all these 70s groups albums popping up on the charts at the same damn time, proving the point that even the kids, the ones who buy popular music, aren't that into the new stuff. That's the point we're getting at here, because the charts are constantly being filled with Fleetwood Mac and other things that, whatever becomes the new TikTok-agram hit, they discover finally the Beach Boys, but yeah.
That's someone older who just discovered how to use it and who listened to their favorite music.
Exactly.
Or kids will hear a song in a movie or a TV show and then they become obsessed with it. Look, Stranger Things is a great example of how a lot of these kids discovered Metallica again all of a sudden. What was it, last year or the year before?
Yeah, how many car commercials have Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin been in? You know what I mean? So.
But in comparison to back in the 80s, 90s, and early aughts, the chart wasn't filled up with a bunch of old stuff, right?
There's
At
no
the same
music
time.
today to compete with it. I mean, the big Netflix song that was Master of the the Stranger Things, it was Master of the Puppets. And the kids today have never heard anything like it. Ain't no song that compares with Master of the Puppets in any
Right.
metal release the past 10 years.
You see it whenever the Guardians of the Galaxy movies use,
Another great example. Thank you. Yeah.
used Rainbow all night long in the last one, and then of course they did Queen before that and whatever. And every time they do that, you see those songs hit the charts again. Rainbow.
Yep.
I'm sure Richie Blackmore was like printing money after that last Guardians of the Galaxy came out, but yeah.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, that's the big difference, right? Like, as opposed to the charts being a bunch of top 40 pop artists, it's being filled up with Prince and Michael Jackson and all these people who aren't even producing new music anymore, basically, is my point. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's keep moving. We got a ton of super chats here, and I don't know how much longer we got you, Razor, but you've been very generous with your time already.
Yeah.
One fan's view says we got this one already. Mercenary X21 says the only board game movie that works is Clue, period. Yeah, I think we got to that point in the discussion. Dobbing Mog sends in, that's 10 pounds, says the Monopoly movie with Lizzo starring Letitia James. Oh no. Is Lizzo playing Boardwalk? I don't know what role she play.
She's playing the board, actually.
Yeah. Like, she's too big for any of the pieces. I mean, Master Clockwork says Rob Schneider is Mr. Monopoly.
You know, I would go day one.
All I can think about is that Ace Ventura joke is, look, everybody, it's the Monopoly guy.
Right.
And he punches him and knocks him out. Anyway, the new IKB 4472 says Jenga, the Twin Tower. Oh, yeah, no, that'd be a bad taste. Captain Fandom Nerd's been here
like
for 33
USS
months.
Liberty battleship or something.
London 1965-7 is gifted a membership. Thank you. And speaking of members, John's been here for 2 months. It says, problem with current gen is there's no consequence to their manic episodes. We forgive everything. Some do. I've gotten to a point where I'm not going to put up with the stupidity anymore. I just don't have time for that nonsense. So, yeah. Chaos Sonic 1 sends in 5, says, you guys know of Marvel artists that Minecrafted himself. The Whisper milkshakes now have blood on their hands. Never forget. Yeah, we brought this up this last week here.
Yeah, clip is coming into live archives. I just haven't got around to clipping it yet, but that is coming. We spoke about that.
I don't know if Razor had anything to add or say to that, but I'm sure you talked about it enough.
Yeah, I saw the drama around it, but I wasn't even aware of the guy. I'd never even heard of him, actually, which is crazy because I worked in a comic store for years. But no, I'd never even heard of the guy.
Yeah, I was not really that aware of him until after this, sadly. But yeah, the sad part is, I said the other day, the right people will never learn the right lessons from this. Dark Hero Fant sends in $2. Says the review of Judas by BioShock developer looks thumbs up. It looks good. Oh, there you go. So if you're a BioShock fan, that looks all right. It sounds like to check out. Paulus Plain sends in 200 Norwegian krona and says, me, lover of good history, Razorfist, have you debated with a historian? The Abraham Lincoln dictator theory? Is Jefferson Davis a hero of freedom? I'll get into some of your historical stuff here.
Yeah, I have had debates on history, yes, before. I'm not since my Abraham Lincoln video or whatever. What I was planning on doing was doing a second part of that where I just got into more of the history, and I had a couple of people from academia that I wanted to have on with me to talk about it. People who, because I don't like the Civil War history particularly. Like, I'm not a big fan of it. I made the video because I wanted to make a video about Lincoln. You have to talk about the Civil War because obviously he was the president when the Civil War happened. But I wanted to have some actual historians on with me to talk about it. So in a roundabout way, yes, I was going to make that video. And I've been talking to one or two different people, and hopefully all of us get to be on together. But if not, it'll be me and one of them. So yeah, that's been in the works for a while, though.
All right. And then we've got Paulus Plain again, who says, Sweet Baby Ink Detected is at 300,607, 130 curators followers. Yeah.
Right.
I said it wrong, but you knew what I meant. Ben Medic sends in 2 and says WWE had a trans wrestler gone after about a week. Oh, really?
Yeah. Transition to unemployed.
Oh, I didn't hear about that, but I'm not a big wrestler fan, so. Then we got Andrew Van Halen, who sends in 5 and says, Andre, when you talk about fan pitches of retro games, the first thing that came to mind was the Mega Man X5 and X6 tweaks improved the game tenfold.
Yeah, perfect examples. Like, not all fan patches are equal, but those that are can easily be from a mild improvement to a tenfold improvement.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm all in favor of them.
Yeah. Look no further than some of the fan translations of old RPGs and stuff that got released, and the translation was botched because back in the 90s and 80s, right, like localization was, well, today we wokeify them, we give them pronouns, but back in the 80s and 90s it was just broken English, right? Those kind of problems.
Exactly.
Fan translations are a godsend for those old
Phantasy Star, for instance. All of those have been fixed by fans numerous times over, and you have many different alternate versions to choose your favorite from, and every last one of them is a step up of the original translation.
Yeah, definitely. And, I'm a big fan. My favorite RPG franchise, Breath of Fire, one of them, and they have done marvelous fan translation patches for the first 2 games now. So
exactly, yeah. Right, moving on.
Action Com says we are in Gamergate 2, or is it clone written by a gamer student with AI help? Well, I mean, people have been calling it Gamergate 2.
I'd say we are. This is Gamergate 2, the revenge of the nerds.
Possibly, yeah. Nelson Sharita says, Andre, I have a question. What is best in life?
Well, especially since Razorfist is here, it is to crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of their women.
Especially
as you listen to some black metal in the background. That's
indeed
create a bunch of they, them, theirs as well.
Yes.
Screw you pronouns.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we got Brown Cornelius at 000 sending in 5 says, damn it, Tom. I've got Thin Lizzy stuck in my head now. Hiding and looking right to left. Yeah. Then we got Bucky Cat who says WWD Pro is reporting that Disney is back on X. I saw that and I was going to bring that up. We actually had so many topics today, we didn't even get to all of them. But yeah, that's the latest report coming out, is that they finally buckled, came back to X.
Yeah, but they're doubling down on Gina Carano.
Are they? I didn't see that.
They released a statement, because now they kind of like have to double down that it was their right to fire her because of freedom of speech and stuff, and they have a right to who they should decide to associate with. So they kind of like double down on that. But hey, back on X, that's a good move, and I think it would be difficult to continue to justify why they are off the one social media platform that keeps on growing.
It's just like all the lefties I saw say, I'm leaving X because of Elon, and they're still there. I'm still leaving X.
What was so funny was that many of them went to Mastodon instead, and there were like some screenshots of people who said, hey, I left this horrible Twitter, the horrible place, because of Elon Musk. Is this place cool? Like, cool if I join in? And then it was like all of the answers, and I'm not going to repeat them here because they would all get us banned off of YouTube right away.
Right.
But I will say it was very, very funny to read, and those persons quickly returned to X.
It's, you know what it reminds me of is that was it Neil Young wanted all his songs pulled off of Spotify because of the Joe Rogan contract on Spotify, and then 15 minutes later he cucked out.
Well, then he realized nobody actually bought his songs on Spotify anyway.
Hey, wait a minute, it's not 1968 anymore. Gosh.
Oh man, look at my life. Oh god, I'm not a big Neil Young fan. Sorry. I laughed at that whole thing.
I know he discovered that his residuals went down to 0. So
exactly
so
what
yeah,
little he
would
was
notice
getting.
that real freaking fast.
Yeah. DRT. Well, here's the funny thing about him. This is one thing I will give him credit for is I don't think it was really such a big deal to him, more so just because he is one of the few artists who supports physical albums being released on all forms of media. So I don't think it was that big of a deal for him at first, but then I think he was just trying to virtue signal more than anything.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like at the end of the day, but like, yeah. But what he did is just, he turned off a bunch of people who were kind of his fans. So I can't believe he actually had real fans, but
he had fans in his house, ceiling fans. Yes.
But I think
I stand corrected.
Yes.
I think he discovered how few fans he actually has, and how many of those, if given the choice between him and Rogan, would go with Rogan any day.
No kidding.
Because if anyone is listening to him and Rogan, and they have to make a choice, guess who they're going to stick with? Ain't Neil Young.
Especially when all his songs sound the same. But anyway, I've had this up twice now and I keep forgetting to read it. DRT is king. Thank you so much for the $5. The Last Duel is fantastic. I think it is underrated for more than most of the rest of Corpus of Work. Yeah, that's the Scott one, right? The Last Duel. Yeah.
As his first one, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the one that helped get him made. Yeah. ActionCom says to Razorfist, when will we get the janitor's cut of Blade Runner and Highlander? Wow.
Right.
Funnily, we've only gotten 2 actual cuts of Highlander, and I have a hard time actually calling it a separate cut because all it really is the international cut.
Well,
That's
there's
really
a guy, incidentally.
Unless you mean Highlander 2, that could be what you mean.
Well, on the subject of Blade Runner, I of course did the film No Archives on Blade Runner, so it's like my favorite movie. There's a guy in Japan working on something called the White Dragon cut of Blade Runner, with supposedly a bunch of sequences that were like in the script, didn't wind up in there, just stuff that was left out to deepen the movie and add some stuff. And he's been posting clips steadily to YouTube. Some of it's like lost footage from other cuts that most of the public doesn't have access to. Some of it he's added like computer graphics and different stuff. It looks interesting. It does actually look really interesting. The guy's doing a great job.
If you don't have it, Andre's got to hook you up with. He's got this thing for Blade Runner where it has all of the different versions on screen at once to show you the different.
Yeah, that is fantastic. You want? I'll hook you up with that if you want. It's like a split screen thing.
Yeah.
Showcasing the 4 different versions of the movie, and I say 4 because you know that the original US theatrical cut and the international cut is the same thing, which is why you have the 4 cuts, which fits rather nicely into the screen, and then you can see exactly the differences. It's actually really interesting. Yeah. And seeing that made me aware of things I hadn't even noticed before, when you certainly have see things from different angles. So I thought that was fascinating.
So yeah, we'll have to hook you up with that if you don't have it.
No, it sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Then we got Bad News Badger, who sends in 50 Danish krona, says, a book just fell and hit me on the head. I blame my shelf. Well, you should. Partsy sends in $1 on the Rumble side and says, or is it Parchi? Andre, you need to check Hansel and Gretel, the SS Death Star Super Galactic, and Trinker,
mit der Kaiser songs. Actually, yes. I have heard them. I'm familiar with Hansel and Gretel. They old fans of Rammstein that were almost the same size of them in the US when Rammstein were first starting out. Of course, then Rammstein went above and beyond. Thanks for the tip. I'm familiar with them already. Who knew?
And then we got Asen Khan, sends in £5 and says, Ehid Murbarak, to everyone on the panel and on the chat, question, Razorfist, what's the best Battletech book to read?
I'll give you the best Battletech book to start with. Something like Decision at Thunder Rift. That's the first one ever. Or a book called Ghost of Winter. I actually did an audio book for that. It's on my channel. So if you want to check that out, that's an easy way to do it. But it's an encapsulatory story and a good little just kind of cool revenge tale. So I find those are the best ones to start with.
And I believe it's Eid Mubarak, which is a celebration of a Muslim holiday. So thank you.
Oh, sorry if I mispronounced that. Then we got Asen Khan again, who says to Razorfist, would you know any live action Battletech TV or movie?
No, there was never a live action series, but Battletech heavily inspired the Charles Band film Robot Jocks. Heavily,
which is now available again. Yeah.
Awesome movie. Love it. The star of that sadly just passed away like a month ago.
That's right. Yeah.
Great movie. I did a Rageaholic Cinema review taking the piss out of that one.
Well, you have to buy a box set to get it, but it's finally back in print again. So yeah. It's worth it though. It's got some other goodies in there with it, like dolls and a few other ones. Then we got Fluffy Panda, who's been a member for 16 months. Thank you for that. And has a super chat here. It says, what era would Razorfist Dutton appear in?
The 80s, probably.
The 1880 or 1986.
Right.
I think they're supposed to be doing.
It'd be like a rogue cop Dutton or something.
I think it's actually more like 1994 or whatever it is, but it's going to be with what's his face, who plays him in the flashbacks. I guess is the plan.
I'll of course be played by Lorenzo Lamas.
Good choice. Good choice. I can see it. I can see it. E. Clay Thomason sends in 5 and says, if you like Westerns, then I highly recommend an underrated YouTube channel just called Just Westerns. Well, there you go. I've been really getting into the Western history again. Like following a lot of these guys who just go through, like, you know, just for instance, like this shootout at the OK Corral or Billy the Kid's history and stuff, like his parentage and stuff, which was always something I questioned as well. And, you know, whether or not he actually got killed and all that kind of stuff. So yeah. A lot of that kind of stuff I've been getting into lately, but yeah, that's cool. Check that out. Chaos Sonic 1 says, Razorfist and Tom, you heard of the leaks of the Suicide Squad and how they are ending the live service in, I think he means 2025. Yeah, we brought that up earlier. At least I did. And Andre had spoken a little bit about that. Yeah. Yeah, looks like it's DOA. ActionCom says, Razorfist, can Hollywood be Hollywood again? Or will the current generation need to pass and a new generation of Hollywood need to start over and create? Good question.
Yeah, I think it's more than just cultural. It's also their old distribution model doesn't work anymore. Their old economic model may be broken top to bottom in a lot of ways. There's a lot of like soul searching that's needed to happen for decades that is only now forcibly happening as a result of multifarious crises all occurring in a very short span of time. So yeah, I don't know. I think that whatever change comes is going to be forced, right? That's really, Hollywood never changes willingly ever, especially when it's way easier to just make the 9 billionth version of something that has already sold before. Like they're just not going to do it willingly. It's going to be something they have to do. It's like a ride or die thing.
I mean, if I can add my 2 cents, I think we really just have to hit that lowest of lows like they did in the 60s again. And really what that is where, you know, at that point, all the moguls were dying out and selling off the studios, and they were sinking way too much money into big, huge productions. And the stuff that was making money was the smaller stuff. And then you had, you know, Easy Rider and other movies like that.
It goes through
and changed Hollywood. Yeah.
It goes through phases. You had the old studio system. Before that, it was kind of the Wild West years. Sometimes literally they actually had Wild West cowboys in early movies. But after the studio system broke down, you had that more experimental period. Then you got into the auteur period, right? Where the director was king and all of that stuff. And that kind of broke down in more recent times. And it always goes in phases. So whatever the next phase is, I feel like it'll be a lot like the rest of entertainment. It will slip into a more niche mode. I think that's probably the destiny for video games as well. Hollywood won't be alone in this, but yeah, and that probably will also provide some advantages in that Hollywood, instead of having to have these mass marketing campaigns that don't really reach everyone, they'll be able to market directly to their niche, each individual product, and they'll probably make more money that way in the long run, honestly.
Which ironically will just kind of take them back to what happened in the 70s. right?
Yeah.
Which kind of spawned that whole thing. Because then what did you have? Well, you had, all these different genres come about. You had even to the point where you had like blaxploitation. You had the breakdown of the westerns with
Right.
like, the Italian westerns taking over. You had the kung
Yeah.
fu movies. You had all these different things. And then Star Wars and Jaws kind of really blew everything up. But yeah. But no, I think you're right. I think that's kind of where we need to hit. And maybe those outside voices will come from places like YouTube and stuff like that. We don't know yet. But we'll have to wait and see. I think you got a good point there, though. Because I think they need to hit a rock bottom, though. Like, it has to get real bad. And it's getting there. It is getting there. Mercenary X21 says, Bubbles popped, Minecrafted by Clinton. Who was? I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't need Hillary after me. Mr. Tickle Trunk says, Midnight Edge's favorite old man shout at clouds channel. Yes.
Well, yesterday was the eclipse.
This is true. Hey, quit
we were staring at clouds yesterday.
1 minute it's daylight, then it's night, and then it's day again. Brandon, the animated guy, says fan translations and patches. Castlevania, Rondo of Blood, PC Engine, Symphony of Night, Sega Saturn, Mother 3, Game Boy Advanced, S-tier games. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Good choices all around.
And then Broke Cracker over on the Rumble side sent in 5. Thank you. Says, I'm looking forward to the Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater remake for games. I've been hearing some rumblings about a Metal Gear Solid remake deal.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how that works out. And DCB Titan says, I agree, Razor. Wish we'd get a Breath of Fire 6 proper. Also, maybe more Mega Mall Legends. Basically, just wondering why Capcom is retarded.
Yeah, who knows? Basically, Capcom's made nothing but a bunch of Resident Evil remakes, which they've said they're going to continue doing. I don't know, like, what are you going to lap back around to Resident Evil 7? Like, how far are we going to go with this? But apparently, for the foreseeable future, they are the Resident Evil remake guys. And then, of course, they did Dragon's Dogma, right? So there's that, and that has done very well. So hopefully that incentivizes them to do something. I said in my original review of the first Dragon's Dogma, I felt like if they reworked that game's formula just a little bit and changed the story, obviously, it could have easily been a modern reboot of Breath of Fire. Very easily. So I loved the first Dragon's Dogma. It's a cool game.
Yeah, and I got a quick update on Nesebro, the former location of Helvete, the legendary Norwegian black metal record store.
And
where there sadly was a fire. The fire was in the basement, meaning only the stuff that was in the basement has been destroyed, whereas most of the really important stuff, all of the pieces of history, the collectibles, the reason why people travel to that store from around the world, is in the first floor. All of it is covered with ashes. So they still have to do a full inventory to see if it's just a surface level of ashes. Is the stuff salvageable? That we don't know yet, and that's going to determine the future of the store.
Interesting.
So there's still hope.
All right, one last thing before we go here. Did y'all get to watch the trailer for Joker 2?
Not if I can help it.
Yeah, I
so
saw
you
the
didn't
trailer.
check it out. Okay. Well, I just wanted to get everybody's reaction.
Yeah, and in my book, it looks perfectly fine. I have nothing further to say about it because it looks fine.
I'm not going to say much because I didn't think the first one was going to be any good, and I was actually surprised. But I'll have to wait and see on this one. It looks different.
I could live to a ripe retiring age, never seeing another item of Joker media ever again.
And I can understand that.
Too much Joker, entirely too much Batman. I just want less Joker in the world in general. I actually did a rant not that long ago called "Enough with the Joker Already." If that gives you a sense of my headspace at this point.
I see. Yeah, no, it's been being talked about. Most people are kind of like, "Huh, interesting." So yeah,
I think it's interesting that they're going to do a musical thing. That's at least interesting. They didn't
really show much of that, but yeah, a little bit. But so in other words, you're not looking too forward to it anyway.
No, I avoided the first movie. I didn't
Did
really
you?
care.
Okay.
I was so sick to death of the Joker already by that point. In every game, every single cartoon, movie, whatever, it's just Joker, Joker, Joker. I'm just sick and tired of looking at him.
It's barely the Joker. That's the only thing I can give it.
That is true, and I have heard
like
that.
it's like
Yes.
yeah.
I've heard it's basically like Taxi Driver with face paint. Like I've heard that, right?
It's Taxi Driver meets King of Comedy, but like no, like I went into it really wanting to hate it, honestly. And I come out going, wow, I was kind of impressed, but
yeah.
So yeah, with that, I just wanted to get everybody's reaction to that because that was the other thing that everybody was talking about. Unless there was anything more, Andre, that we missed, I don't think there was.
No, I think we have covered everything there is to cover. Right, of course, I'd love to talk with Razorfist about everything, but we've kept you all here for 3 hours 40 minutes.
We'll have to have Razor back.
So Razorfist, thanks for being here. We can't have it be so long until next time. And meanwhile, what should people check out? What did you want to plug?
I mean, I just got a rant up today. You can go check that out over at my channel. And of course, I got, I'm wearing the shirt. I got my own Western coming up. Speaking of, I've been predicting for a while. It's looking like 2024 and into 2025. It's going to be kind of the year of the Western in Hollywood, across media in general. And I've got my own Western graphic novel coming out. We're going to have an announcement about it real soon. I'm being conservative in saying that. We have our monochrome version of that already locked in. The publisher is ready to go with that. As soon as the color version is totally done, we're going to make a big announcement on when that's all going to ship out. Have a nice trailer for you all. And it's called The Ghost of the Badlands, of course. So anyone who wants to check that out, I will have a big announcement for you very, very soon. If you
we'll have to have you back for that.
Yeah, we'll have absolutely.
Yeah, maybe we could do some kind of like Western special or something.
Absolutely, that'd be great.
Yeah. Westerns are big in Norway.
Well, there was a great one of the Westerns that inspired me. Wasn't made in Norway, but it was made in Austria. It's a relatively recent movie called The Dark Valley. Fantastic, from like 2015 or something like that. So highly recommend
some English language Morgan Kane. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
All right. With that, everyone, check out Razorfist in the description. The links are there. Check out Mr. Chato. Tom, do you have anything you want to plug for later? Of course, check out Midnight Edge Espanol, which is streaming right now, which this stream also will link to.
Offhand, I don't know if I'll be doing anything later other than physical media show on Fanscene. Check us out there. And yeah.
And Razorfist to stay 2 more minutes. But for everyone else, it is time for some koalas in the rain.
Koalas in the rain. Koalas in the rain. No fucks given. Koalas in the rain.